Good morning. Happy Thursday. One day closer to Titans preseason game number 2. With you until 1 o'clock. Lucas and Robert here in studio, and Buck checking in from his hotel room in Atlanta. No practice for him to escape off to, so he is stuck with us for the next 3 hours. And do we have you, Grandpa? Is it a good day? Are you with us on this Thursday?
Is it a good day? Are you cognizant? Can you hear us, old man? Can you see us? Yeah.
Are you drifting?
Probably, but you won't know that until about halfway through the show. I think we're going to make it. Boys. It's going to be a good connection day. I can feel it in my bones.
You might have spoken far too soon there. But let's go on, shall we? Because we have 2 days of joint practice to react to. We have a second preseason matchup for Cam Ward to play in. We know he will play approximately 2 series, what Brian Callahan said, exactly what we saw from him in Tampa. I mean, just right out of the gates, is there anything situationally that we didn't get from Cam in preseason week 1 that in an ideal world we get to see on Friday night?
That's a good question. So, I mean, we got a chunk play, right? We got the 27-yarder to Ridley. We got a 3-and-out. We got a penalty that he had to dig himself out of. I guess the only thing we haven't seen him do in a preseason game is throw a touchdown pass, but is that something that's got to be a chunk play down the field? Is that something, frankly, I'd like to see him do something in the low red zone as far as the passing game goes, rather than just hand it to Tony a bunch of times and punch it in, because that has been red zone has been probably the area where we've nitpicked them the most, and it's hard, right? I mean, we've talked about the degree of difficulty for any NFL offense in the red zone, any NFL passing game in the red zone. So, yeah, I mean, if those opportunities present themselves and he can kind of problem solve his way through it, I think that'd be nice to see.
I'd like to see him spread the ball around a little bit, right? 3 of his 5 completions to Calvin Ridley. Like, we know that connection is sound. We know that chemistry is on point.
Right. I'd like to see him throw at Ellick and not get picked. You know?
Sure. Exactly. And then we had Charles Davis on yesterday in hour 1, and he mentioned the idea of a 2-minute drill, but it does feel like it's tough to manufacture that situation for him in a preseason game, right? If he's not playing at the end of a half.
Yeah, and there's nothing to guarantee that he's going to get as many plays as he did in Tampa, right? Because they're going by series. So if they go 3-and-out again, if they go 3-and-out twice, are they going to put him back out there for a third? It doesn't sound like they will. So you want to see as many prolonged, sustained drives as humanly possible to give him as much work as humanly possible. Because, I mean, I don't know, Lucas. They may change their tone on this because they said they've been pretty consistent about playing him all preseason. But, I mean, if they get good enough work in tomorrow night in Atlanta, are fans going to be up in arms if he doesn't play at home against the Vikings? Probably.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, if that has any impact, Callahan has stated that he will probably play in all 3 games, right? I don't know if that was about Cam specifically. I think that was a question he was answering about the starters writ large playing in all 3, at least getting a few reps in all 3. And to be honest, I'd be surprised if he didn't play against Minnesota. Just for him to get a feel in his home stadium, it'll be the first time that he is at Nissan Stadium in a game setting.
I mean, they might argue that he did that for the open training camp practice, but I understand. Listen, that doesn't hold a candle to what an actual game environment is like. And if not for him, obviously you wouldn't risk the health and well-being of the football player just to get him out there in front of the home fans. But I'm sure the marketing department would like to see Cam Ward play a game or some snaps at home against the Vikings, even if the coaching staff is hemming and hawing a little bit. Again, if he performs well in Atlanta, it's a different conversation. If there's reason to give him more work, then they'll give him more work.
We're fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. You can jump in at 615-737-1045 or on 1045 The Zone TV. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the page. While you're there, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Kent on the F&M Bank chat. People getting in there early. Kent says, I'd like to see a 10-play drive that bleeds 6 minutes off the clock. He had a few of those drives in one game in particular last year with the Miami Hurricanes that you said you were rewatching. It was the Louisville game, you said. Was it just on and you just ended up sitting and watching the whole game?
Yeah, I was flipping through the channels. I mean, there's not that much to do in Buford, Georgia. I'm going to get down to Atlanta tonight. Robert, strip club wings tonight. I'm excited. Strip club wings. We're very excited about them. I can't wait. Magic City.
Are we carry out or dine in?
Oh, dine in. Well, I'm not going to stay for the show.
All right, Grandpa.
You taking your grandpa to a lot of strip clubs to get wings, are you?
No, but my grandpa took me to a lot of them.
That I believe that would make a lot of sense as to your formative years as to why we see what we see in front of us now. But so I was getting some work done after prime time last night, and I heard Joe Tessitore. I was just flipping through the channels. I heard Joe Tessitore's sweet dulcet tones, and I said, "Oh, a college football game? Surely not." And of course not, because it's August the 13th. Yesterday, and it was ESPNU, and it was a replay of Cam Ward versus Tyler Shuck, Miami at Louisville, undefeated Miami, 6-0 at the time, against the Cardinals in a 52-45 final, which is as drunk of a college football game as I think you could find.
I remember this game. Yeah.
It was an incredible game, and I know you remember it for different reasons, but it'd been a while since I'd seen it, so I was like, what else am I going to watch? I mean, I suppose I could have thrown on something from one of the streaming platforms or something like that. But I was like, there's this may be good, or this may just be generally fun to go back and watch a Cam Ward college football game, given that I've spent a bunch of time watching Cam Ward work his way through some things at practice. And it was fascinating, not just because it was a fun game and it was an electric atmosphere, and Louisville almost got him in a couple of different ways. A defensive score that was, I believe, wiped off the board that would have given Louisville the lead and would have been one of the biggest upsets in college football last year, given where Louisville was at 4-2 coming into the game. But I sat there and watched it, and forgive me, I don't remember the analyst that was on with Joe Tessitore, but some of the things that he was pointing out about the Cam Ward experience, all the things that we knew in the lead up to the draft process, watching them play out, watching an analyst break those things down in real time, and then kind of juxtaposing it against what I've been seeing at practice. I found it to be a fun experience beyond just a fun game, and frankly, pretty informative about some of the stuff we're seeing, a good reminder of some of the stuff that we are seeing Cam Ward have to work through that we always knew he was going to have to work through in the pros, but just a little more visceral in an actual game environment as opposed to 14 snaps in a preseason game.
Both he and Tyler Shuck were phenomenal in this game.
So good.
It was insane. 52-45. Tyler Shuck, 31 of 51, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns. Cam Ward, 21 of 32, 319 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also 7 scrambles for 29 yards. This was another big Xavier Restrepo game, 100-yard game for Restrepo and a touchdown.
The program receptions record with Michael Irvin in attendance did Xavier Restrepo in that game, which I had also forgot. It also made me kind of like try and talk myself again into Xavier Restrepo making the roster, and then I don't think that's a real thing.
So it got you a little excited, huh? Watching Cam Ward dice up that vaunted Louisville defense last season to go 7-0.
Famously vaunted Louisville defense, yes. It was an exciting college football game, and obviously that's a player on the Titans. There's a couple of players now from that roster in Miami and a couple of players on that Louisville roster that are also in the pros. So it's just fun to go back and just kind of remind yourself of it. But excited, the game was exciting. Informative is probably the word that I would use more because, all right, you brought up how many times he scrambled in the game, or how many times you didn't bring this number up necessarily, but the amount of times that he tried to make a play after the play within the structure had broken down. And the analyst was bringing up, okay, so you see Cam Ward scrambling here, and he's going to have to throw it away, and he ended up throwing it away. But because the scramble drill took so long to execute, the analyst was pointing out, the receivers have no idea where he's going. So they're trying to break open, but it's not necessarily an easy thing to do as a receiver if you don't know where the quarterback's going to be. In the same way that we talk about an offensive lineman. Like offensive linemen, if it's a 5-step drop, a 3-step drop, a 7-step drop, they know how long they're going to have to hold up in protection. That's what their assignment is. If the play breaks down and the quarterback rolls, okay, well, then it's a scramble drill for the rest of you, too, because you don't know where he's going. You've got your backs to him. Receivers are trying to figure out where the hell Cam Ward is going to go, and it ultimately ends up being a throwaway. Sometimes it can result in an explosive play if the receiver breaks off the coverage, and on this particular play, Louisville held up well. They were very sticky in coverage on that particular play, and it just ended up having to be a throwaway. But just some things to point out about what Cam Ward is going to have to work through, and what any quarterback would have to work through, is to how to make sure that everybody stays on time, everybody stays on rhythm. It's not going to be perfect each and every snap. It's impossible. But to try and limit your mistakes or limit your opportunities for bad plays or inconsequential plays, for lack of a better term. And some of the things that Cam was doing that he's still doing or working his way through and will hopefully work his way out of, that were just very apparent in that game. So informative to go back and watch some of that. And in fact, I ended up sticking with the whole game because the whole game was just electric, start to finish.
It was. I remember watching that game from a Tennessee perspective. That was kind of that point in the season where I want to say Tennessee had lost to Arkansas at this point. So it was kind of a thing where, all right, we might end up needing some help down the stretch. So we need the likes of Miami to drop a game, right? We can't have this many teams going undefeated, going with one loss. So I remember watching that game and rooting for Louisville to pull off the upset to kind of push Tennessee up in the upcoming college football rankings. But it was electric, and they played in a lot of those games. And Cam Ward, very used to having a defense that forces him to just outscore the opponent week in and week out. Maybe that'll be the case this year, but certainly it won't come at the ease that it came in playing in the ACC last year. Speaking of things that he is working through, the throwaways, which you just mentioned as an example from that Louisville game. Just kind of a weird quirk, I feel like, over these last 2 weeks that we've kept coming back to with the throwaway against the Bucks that landed safely on the grass, but not necessarily a spot that you want to put that ball. And then the throwaway in joint practice against the Falcons, picked off by D. Alford. We played the cut from Cam Ward yesterday, how he felt in that moment. He said, just pain, which kind of made us laugh. But just kind of a very specific thing that has kind of popped up for him in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, throw it 10 rows in the stands if you can. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just something that he's going to have to do. Now, I mean, he's not got the strongest arm in the world. Like, he's not got a bad arm by any stretch of the imagination. Like, he's got some. I think I saw Chase Daniel on Twitter describe it either today or yesterday as arm arrogance. He's got enough. He's got enough to whip it if he wants to whip it without the proper footwork and technique. Now, the proper footwork and technique is also something that he's got to work on there, which will allow him to improve his accuracy, his ball placement, and just things generally. And that's a learning curve for him too. But yeah, I mean, you can't have that opportunity come up because it wasn't an interception in the Bucks preseason game, but it could have been because it dropped square between two Bucks defenders that, had they been just, a couple of inches closer to the ball, could have easily made a play on a ball. Yesterday it was intercepted. He has to understand, and I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's only gonna make that mistake so many times before he can correct it. But just put enough on it to where what did he say yesterday in the press conference, that he's just going to rip it at the opposing coach's head?
Yeah, just throw it at the. I don't think he said head, but he's in terms of what to do next time. Yeah, make sure you get it out on the sideline or just throw it at their head coach or something.
Throw it at their head. Okay, throw it at their
head. Pain.
Oh yeah, really? Just pain.
Pain. That's pretty good.
How's Grandpa going to feel at the show tomorrow, doing the show in the first segment, Buck, after a night at Magic City?
Probably terrible, but it's 11 o'clock Eastern here, so I'll have plenty of time to recover. I may even go back to the spa. Went to the spa at the Chateau earlier this week, which is where the team is staying. So maybe I'll squeeze a sauna in before you drag me through 3 hours of hungover radio tomorrow.
Now this is what I am expecting you to say tomorrow.
Really just pain.
A lot of pain.
So is Cam Ward the best thing that the Titans have right now? Will he be the source of their biggest strength in 2025, or will it be something else? We'll talk about it coming up next.
Erectile dysfunction can wreck your confidence. It can impact your relationship, your mental health, and even your sense of identity. But there's good news. There's real help. Since 2014, the Tennessee Men's Clinic has helped thousands of guys get back to feeling like themselves. First in Midtown, before it was called Midtown, then in Cool Springs, and now in Clarksville. No matter where you are in Middle Tennessee, expert care is close by. And these aren't cookie-cutter solutions. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is urology-based and staffed with multiple licensed providers who specialize in men's sexual health. They use proven treatments tailored to your specific situation. No one-size-fits-all treatments. Whether you're dealing with mild or moderate ED, performance issues, or even conditions like Peyronie's disease, their medical team will work with you to create a plan that gets results, often with options most men didn't even know were out there. And forget waiting around. They have in-house labs so you get your blood work results in minutes, not days. Too many guys rely on pills that don't work or come with nasty side effects. There are better solutions. Sometimes it's a combination of treatments that can finally unlock the results that you've been missing. If you felt the sting of performance issues recently, ask yourself, when was the last time you felt confident in the bedroom? You don't have to settle. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes a full medical consultation, blood work, and, if medically advised, a test dose right there in the office. Call now at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or book online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Let's face it, buying a vehicle should be straightforward and stress-free, and that's exactly how Two Rivers Ford has been doing business for decades. This locally owned dealership has a non-commissioned sales team whose only focus is to find you the right vehicle at the right price without the pressure. So you'll actually have a fun car buying experience. Great prices, easy financing, and a non-commissioned sales team. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Hey guys, Lucas Panzica here to talk to you about Hattie B's. In about 40 minutes, doors will open at Hattie B's locations across Middle Tennessee, the factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West, even the Nashville Airport, and that first preseason game at Nissan Stadium coming up, the regular season coming up. You've got Hattie B's at Nissan Stadium to eat the best hot chicken in the world while you watch the Tennessee Titans. It's a family-run restaurant serving up your favorite Southern food and authentic Nashville hot chicken. They hand-bread their fried chicken, cooked to order. Add your spice level, hot or not, and it's made with love. Remember Bishop's Meat and 3? Well, those are the same people running the great food at Hattie B's. Pick your favorite side, Southern greens, pimento mac and cheese, bacon cheese grits, and more. Top it off with some banana pudding or peach cobbler. By the way, you download the Hattie B's app, you get a free dessert just by downloading the app. You can order for pickup or delivery. They've got you covered with catering for your tailgate as well. And go to Hattie B's today. Welcome back. Fueled by Hattie B's, Buck in Georgia, Bert and I in studio hanging out until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Cam Ward has made waves with, obviously, his practices and Titans fans wanting every morsel of information and some of the things that he's out here saying, talking about the Titans unit offensively and the wide receiver group specifically. We're going to hear from Cam coming up in just a moment, but did it strike you, Buck? Did you even bat an eye? Because it's not the first time he's said something like this, right? When talking about his own football team. I think it was a couple weeks ago that he called Treylon Burks, a top 5 receiver in the NFL. So we shouldn't be too shocked when the quarterback says he believes he has a top 5 wide receiver room in the NFL.
I do respect the way that he supports his teammates, even when the rest of us know that he shouldn't be, or at least in that specific instance, the Treylon Burks specific instance. I mean, yeah, it does make me pick up and look around because nobody else on this football team is talking like that, which we're going to get to later. I know in the noon hour. And by the way, I'm really excited to have Nate Washington a part of the show on a weekly basis. We told you we're going to have a bunch of smart football people hanging out with us during the regular season. And, God help us if they make the postseason, then I suppose the postseason too. But Nate Washington is going to be on with us every Thursday, and we'll do so at 12:20 today. So we will look forward to diving into expectations with Nate Washington. And, so yes, the answer is yes. It does make me pick up my head and pay attention when he says that, because one, I know that's not where they're at right now, and I appreciate that he kind of couches it with potential, because he keeps talking about potential, and theoretically, any NFL offense could have the potential to be a top 10 offensive unit if everybody's healthy and everybody's right and the quarterback is performing at peak levels and everything goes to plan, right? But that's just not what Tennessee is right now. So nothing wrong with trying to inspire his teammates. Lucas, the thing that catches my attention about him is that he doesn't have any baggage of all the crappy football that's come before him, and that he's just about the only one on the roster that doesn't have the baggage of all the crappy football that's come before him. So he as we touched on briefly yesterday, as long as my connection was holding up, there's scars of years past with Cam Ward.
Yes. Do we still have you, Grandpa?
Oh, really?
Okay, good. No, Bert was just messing with you there.
That's not fun.
So let's hear from Cam Ward talking about what he thinks is the biggest asset on this football team right now.
Playmakers that I have in the backfield with me, the running back core, then especially in the receiving core. I think I honestly have a top 5 receiver core in the NFL, including the young guys who are able to make plays. It's really all about just us or myself putting the ball in their frame of work, letting them make a play. And then it's also those guys being aggressive to make plays for the team. And then the O-line, I don't have to worry about them. That's going to always be the standpoint. Those guys, they bring the energy every day, especially starting with JC. So I'm excited to be behind those guys. Those guys' pass protection, they keep me clean. Really, I would say 8 times out of 10. I know I'm going to take a bad sack this year. They're going to give up a sack this year, but we just got to continue to play, good, clean football.
So everybody's getting flowers from Cam Ward. He starts with J.C. Latham, too, individually talking about the offensive line. Before we go on with this, Buck, I think we do have to hear this because, if I'm not mistaken, around the exact same time that Cam Ward was talking to you guys after joint practice and saying that he believes they have a top 5 wide receiver core, Colin Cowherd was doing his AFC South preview, or just generally his predictions for the standings in the NFL this season. And this is what Cowherd had to say, again, at about the same time about the Titans offense.
Mostly been about the Titans, who I think they have the quarterback and the coach for the future, but they've acknowledged, both the quarterback and the coach are acknowledging the offense is struggling. They probably have the worst receiving core in the league. So I think Tennessee will be a fun watch, and I really like Cam Ward. But Trevor Lawrence is healthy, offensive coach, between Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter in the camp. They've upgraded their O-line. I'm going to put them at second. Titans third, Colts fourth.
So that's just him predicting the AFC South. He's going Texans 1, Jags 2, Titans 3. But I couldn't get over the timing of that as Cam Ward is lauding his top 5 wide receiver room. Colin Cowherd saying it's the worst in the NFL.
Really just pain.
Well, and in Cowherd's defense, The last Cowherd or the last. Also, why does it sound like Cowherd is spitting at you every time he speaks? Do you catch that in his cadence or his delivery?
No, he's done well for himself.
No, I'm not knocking the hustle at all. He's got it figured out more than most of us do. But it's just funny. Like I just feel like I feel like I should. Anyway, we don't have to get into that. The last time Cowherd probably heard a Cam Ward clip or saw a Cam Ward clip, the quarterback was calling the offense mid. So I assume that's what he's working off of there, where he's talking about the coach and the quarterback are both acknowledging growing pains. And then Cam Ward turns around after 3 joint practices and 2 weeks of training camp and says, "Yeah, potential to be. I think I've got a top 5 receiving core." But I'm probably more in line with the Cowherd school of thought because I am. I'm not Cam Ward. I don't have to manifest this into existence the way that he's probably going to have to. And listen. He is trying to inspire people. There is nothing wrong with him giving them confidence in themselves. Calvin Ridley, the best thing that I could say about Calvin Ridley is that he did not outright break last year. Well, I mean, there was one instance in October where he was very, very upset.
It was after the Colts game, right, where there were drops and he was getting targets in the fourth quarter, and he's talking about get me involved early. If I'm not mistaken.
Because he had like 11 targets or something disgusting without a catch, and they like a bunch of, to your point, a bunch of them were being forced to him at the end. But no, this was in the regular season. I want to say it was either after the Bills or the lead up to the Bills, and it was in the facility locker room, not at Nissan Stadium, and that never got out there because. After a while, like we all just kind of put our phones down and we're like, I don't think that this should go out on social media for not that we should protect players like that, but it was just Calvin was clearly going through it and we could all understand why. And somebody was questioning on him on his lack of production versus the money that he was making. And it was a bit of a, what do the kids say? A crash out. It was a bit of a crash out. And, of course we all understood, but we were looking around, and it's like, I think that video is still on my phone. I should probably delete it just so I don't actually tweet it out or accidentally tweet it out. But that date was October the 13th. That was so early on in the process for these players. But that Calvin, fought his way through it and tried his best, it felt like.
That is the day of the Colts game, by the way. October 13th.
Well, but it's in, so maybe it's let's see, this is, October the 10th. So this was right before the Colts game. Right before the Colts game. And he has this mini meltdown type of situation. And you can see it in his eyes. Like Tyke Tolbert has talked about this sometimes. Like Calvin will get worked up, and you just have to let him work it out and decompress, and then he's very receptive of whatever it is that you're trying to get across to him. But last year broke a lot of these dudes, or got close to breaking a lot of these dudes. And Cam Ward, who comes without the baggage of this, can pull them out of it or can help pull them out of it because he is there to help inspire them. And if he's gassing them up on the front end, God knows nobody else is going to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And this team seems like it's following Cam Ward and kind of taking his lead, which the Titans haven't had at the quarterback position in so long. So I have a hard time imagining having an issue with your quarterback saying that. Are they a top 5 receiver core? Of course they're not. But he doesn't have to be saying that. It's okay. I mean, to follow up what he said, though, on the offensive line and not having to worry about them, correct me if I'm wrong, but at no point during training camp, during joint practice, now 3 joint practices against 2 defensive-minded head coaches that will throw stuff at you against some good personnel, better personnel defensively that the Bucs have than what the Falcons have, certainly, in terms of players that can affect the quarterback. But at least in those joint practices, Buck, didn't hear a word, not a single peep from any of you guys down there in Tampa and Atlanta about the offensive line.
So part of that, and I brought this up with Ramon and Will this morning, is in the one-on-ones, they were on a completely different field. Like we couldn't have gotten to the Falcons D-line versus Titans O-line one-on-one reps if we wanted to. So I didn't see any of it. In team, I thought he was well protected. There was one play where They are driving the length of the football field in the opposite direction. We're standing in one end zone, and they're driving the length of the field in the opposite direction. They're about at midfield. And unfortunately, like the offensive coaching staff and some of the reserve players are standing behind the formation, so it makes it difficult to see. And I don't know who was screaming off the left side. I couldn't see a number. But a Falcons edge rusher comes screaming around the left side of the offensive line, and I just immediately say, dead body. Now the ball gets off, and I couldn't really tell if even the pass was completed, but he gets the ball off. But from that angle, I'm having trouble seeing, okay, did that pass rusher beat Dan Moore, or did Dan Moore kind of ride him around on the outside to allow Cam Ward additional time, so the pass rusher just came wide around the back as opposed to just screaming at Cam Ward the way that it initially looked like to me. So I don't want to say – long story short, offensive line has not been a talking point in a bad way. But I will point out to people who are living and dying on every tweet and every word coming out of training camp and every observation is that a lot of times we just don't have the best vantage point to be able to see all of the stuff that would allow us to appropriately report on everything that's happening on both of these fields at one time,
Sure, but you are watching team drills for the most part. You're watching almost every team drill.
Solid. J.C. Latham is out here stonewalling dudes. And your boy James Pierce, they not overwhelmingly positive reports about him as a not as a person, not some of the stuff that was being rumored in the pre-draft process, but like they're waiting for him to look like he's worth trading a future first and giving up selecting him with a first round pick and trading up for a future first round pick or giving away a future first round pick to add him to their roster. It's a lot of pressure on James Pierce. That's not his fault, but Falcons, that's a lot of draft capital to give up for a player that's not just an absolute world breaker out there. He's not yet.
Well, they need something out of the two rookies, Ian Walker, and plus Leonard Floyd, or they're going to have trouble getting to the quarterback this year.
How many teams has Leonard Floyd been on?
A lot. But, I mean, over the last few years, offensive line has been a major talking point, whether it's just Titans on Titans or joint practice. Speaking of, by the way, the Niners have placed Andre Dillard on season-ending IR.
You ruined my break-in. I was going to wait till you guys were done.
I'm sorry.
Didn't they just activate him off something?
Did they? I don't know. But they brought in NPF and Dillard at the same time. NPF is on the streets, and Dillard is on IR. So,
lucky for them.
You didn't even give me time to pull up War is Over to play.
Oh, I'm so sorry. But all that to say, I am
Titans legend.
So cautiously optimistic about this offensive line and so wary to say, like, I almost want to whisper it, like, I think the Titans O-line might be one of the biggest strengths on the team this year, at least in the run game.
That's such a long thing to whisper.
I mean, they were able
to even really whisper it either. You were kind of like grunting.
That's my whisper.
That's like the whisper you do in someone's ear at a bar, like, hey, the Titans.
That whisper that everybody can hear, that's my whisper.
Because you are so loud.
No inside voice.
So loud. I think if we're gonna do like powder is wet segment, I think we should do things that we would not be comfortable saying with our whole chest.
My powder's wet on the O-line.
Ooh, I don't know if
I think it's going to be a solid group. I do. I will note, you said this with Blaine and I yesterday on Cover 2. You said you think that group's going to be a plus. You said that, and I will also add that 2 weeks ago, you were saying best case scenario for the Titans offensive line is to be a bottom 10 unit in the NFL, which is insane. I don't think we need to refresh the definition
if it's a bottom 5 roster and they're bottom 10, that's a plus.
I think we need to refresh the definition of best case scenario with you, and you came away saying it's going to be a plus a couple weeks later.
I famously don't do best case scenarios very well.
I digress. But I think there's a reality where the Titans offensive line, especially as a run blocking unit, might be the thing this team is best at this year, which is also the thing they were best at last year.
Sure. And by the way, that would be good because if they can run the football effectively and efficiently, then they can support Cam Ward. Like you don't want to have to, you don't want to drop him back 30 times, 40 times in games where they're probably going to field a bad defense in 2025. Yeah, like they may be in situations where if things get out of hand on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to be chasing. I don't want Cam Ward in disadvantageous positions because he's having to make up for a poor defense, or trying to make up for a poor defense and chasing in these games and putting that offensive line on its heels and putting Cam Ward in vulnerable positions where the defense knows, all right, they gotta chase here. They're going to be dropping them back. Let's just tee off on them. Let's see if we can, as Coach Mack has talked about, let's go out there and try and break a rookie quarterback. And that's what every defense in the league is going to try to do to this guy. And any of them, Shuck, Dart, Shador, if Shador ends up playing any kind of meaningful snaps this year, all of them will be in similar situations or somewhat similar situations. So, yeah, if they can improve upon the best thing that they did last year with a better version of that unit, all of that will do wonders in supporting Cam Ward long term.
And to Blaine's point yesterday, like they better, right? You've got 2 first-round picks in there, 2 first-round picks that you selected, not a first-round cast-off like Andre Dillard that somebody else didn't want, somebody that you brought in that has another year now under the best offensive line coach in the game in Bill Callahan. And the other 3 are free agents that you brought in on big money with varying levels of, obviously, investment and experience, but all 3 guys that at one point or another in their career have been solid to high-level offensive linemen. And Robert Mays of The Athletic they did a podcast episode the other day about the most improved units, potentially the most improved units in the NFL this year. They spent some time on the Titans offense and some time on the Titans offensive line, and they were saying, if Dan Moore Jr. is your worst offensive lineman, then you're probably in a decent place. And there's a reality this year, if healthy, that Dan Moore Jr. is the Titans' worst offensive lineman.
Is this the same podcast that they referenced our interview with JC?
I believe so.
Yes, and they mispronounced Buck's name.
I know, I'm very
That was
upset
the
about that.
best part of the entire thing. The Buck Reesing show.
Yeah.
I gave them a 1-star review after I heard that. I changed it from a 5-star review to a 1-star review. Get it right, Mays.
Please. Robert Mays, one of those people that you probably will say is like somebody that you know well and maybe has like seen you come across his timeline once, so does not know how to pronounce your name.
Famously, besties.
So, are we all in agreement? Titans offensive line will be top 5 unit in the league. All right. Fantastic. That's what to take away from this segment, I suppose.
I don't do this. Don't make me have to be the bad guy on everything that you try to gaslight your fan base on.
But I think we are in agreement. It is, at the very least, a group that better be much improved.
Damn well better be.
Right?
As much money and as much draft capital as they spent on it, you start to get into J-Rob territory if you start whiffing on this offensive line situation, because that's the thing that set him the most back.
Yeah, expectations are high. Early returns have been solid in camp, but that's what the games are for.
And Lucas thinks solid is top 5.
There is, I say facetiously, there is a position battle brewing. We don't really have any position battles happening on the offensive line, but one at linebacker has been constant throughout camp, and they continue to bring in new faces into that battle. We'll tell you who they brought in yesterday next.
Premier Generators is here to help you with all the fuss that you think comes with installing a home generator. It's really not as complicated as you might think. And how quickly does a generator kick in after the power goes out? It takes about 15 seconds. Just enough time for you to realize that the power has actually gone out, and then it's right back on. You don't have to do a thing. That kind of reliability brings peace of mind. And a Generac home standby generator from Premier Generators is quieter than most people expect, about 65 decibels, similar to a lawnmower in the distance. Premier Generators is going to deal with all the fuss, all the permitting, all the different things that you think might be a hassle for you to install your very own home Premier Generator. But they are going to make sure that you don't have to stress about the details at all. That's what they're for. And with a free 10-year warranty, Premier Generators is there to guarantee your satisfaction. So call them today at 855-POWER-IS-ON. That's 855-PWR-IS-ON, or online at premiergenerators.com.
So we know Cody Barton is going to be a centerpiece of this Titans defense, but going into training camp, that spot next to him felt wide open, up for grabs. Multiple candidates settled in the first couple weeks with James Williams, largely getting reps with the ones. But now, Buck, after a preseason game and 3 joint practices, Cedric Gray getting reps with the ones, and then the Titans bring in Brian Asamoah II from Minnesota, former third-round pick of the Vikings out of Oklahoma back in 2022. He was released this week. Titans are first in the waiver claim. They bring him in and waive Otis Reese IV, which, while we're, I guess, calling out bad opinions by you, Robert said that was your prediction to start next to Cody Barton, Otis Reese?
Yeah, I think minicamp?
Something like that.
I think it's also worth noting that we don't call people the second. We just call them junior. It would be Brian Asamoah Jr.
But
in the transaction, it has the 2.
Well, the 2 is incorrect. No one says the second of anything. It is junior.
If you wanted to be junior, I think it would say junior.
From someone who is also a Roman numeral after their name, you don't call them the second. The same way you wouldn't call...
James Williams is a senior, so you wouldn't say James Williams
crazy because he's like 23.
I know.
Doesn't he have a youngin'? Isn't that why he's a senior? So he has James Williams Jr. Yes, exactly. Not James Williams II. He's not a king or in England or something. Yes, of the second order, my son shall rise.
Is Cedric Gray a third? Because that's all that's missing here. Because Brian Asamoah II is replacing Otis Reese.
Jones was a 4th, and there was a whole backstory behind how they
Otis Reese is a 4th, and James Williams is a senior.
You can be the third. The third is fine. There is no, thirdiary that they could be. You know what I mean? So my dad is the third.
What is that word you just used?
Thirdiary? Secondary? Firstiary?
And tertiary would be the...
Okay, well, whatever. My dad is the third.
I don't think tertiary is right either.
Well, I think he was just using another airy. But we all call him Robert Lee Walsh the turd. So you could any thirds, I think you should call the turd.
Wait, you're the turd?
No. I'm the 4th.
He's the 4th.
Yes, I get the V in my name.
I would like you to go by that now exclusively if they're going to make us call, it's like Cam and Cameron. Apparently his family's preference is that he be called Cameron. So I don't know. I think Cam Ward rolls off the tongue a little easier, but
yeah.
If you just want to call him Cameron, I guess. Is Hey Cameron back there somewhere? I guess we'll go with that.
Harold Hockett II in the F&M Bank chat is disagreeing with you, Robert. He says, I am a second and I prefer the second, and he's got it in the name.
Well, Harold, I'm going to call you Junior. Harold, can I call you Double H Junior?
The Titans have some juniors. Jarvis Brownlee is a junior, right? I don't know. I can understand wanting to be called the second rather than junior.
Have the two of you really run out of things to talk about this way, that this is the level of discourse around roster transactions now? God. I almost said a bad word.
So how many legitimate candidates are we looking at for this linebacker spot that looked like it was in the direction of James Williams, but now feels like it's kind of a little back to square one?
No, I don't think that's true. I think it's James Williams.
Okay.
I listen. They experimented yesterday with giving Cedric Gray some run with the ones, and I think that's as much like an experimentation situation as like the preseason game where. You and I brought up in that Titans radio segment that we did that sounded very professional and very not like us on Saturday before the Bucs game, which is they're going to give James Williams and Cedric Gray some run together because James Williams at some point is probably going to have to play some snaps without Cody Barton on the field, whether that's because of injury or if Cody Barton gets ill or something like that, he has to miss some time. James Williams going to have the experience of what it is to run the defense and run it with reserves, right? There's Jeff Simmons and Tavondre Sweat may not play all 17 games this year. I know those are the things that you don't want to think about or don't want to have to consider, but they have to consider if they are going to do this correctly, they are going to have to find as many different situations to put these guys in so that they can be as prepared as humanly possible for as many different scenarios that can pop up throughout the course of a regular season. That's what yesterday was to me, and I can get some clarification on that for you if that's something we want to talk about in the pregame segment tomorrow. By the way, looking forward to having Jimmy Wyatt back.
Yes,
that will. Jimmy brings a level of professionalism that neither of us have, and will be able to educate us as a result. But I'm not used to not having my road trip partner along with me. So to do a game without Jimmy felt weird last week, and happy that we will have him back, and of course still thinking about his family after the loss of his dad. But yesterday, just more experimentation, right? They have to find opportunities. They have to find opportunities in games that don't count to give these guys reps that they may not be great at. I think there was a scenario that came up in the Eagles-Bengals preseason game the other day. What's the Georgia corner that the Eagles drafted? God knows they have half of Georgia's roster. Keely Ringo?
Oh, yeah, Keely Ringo. Yeah.
So I saw a clip making the rounds of Vic Fangio, and he's talking about, well, I called cover zero defense in the preseason game. And I don't use, if you look at Vic Fangio's tendencies, he doesn't use cover zero very often. But he said, I called cover zero just to see how the secondary would respond. Even though I know we won't do it again, I gotta test them on some stuff. Like, we do these things in the classroom, and Keely Ringo got his ass burned in the middle of that, and they won't probably do it in a game. But these are the kind of educational moments, teaching moments that coaches reference that will seem more visceral to fans watching them than they actually are for the coaches who are evaluating them.
Well, it's been a very transaction-heavy week. A lot of churn at the linebacker spot. Khaleke Hudson, Brian Asamoah, and Blake Lynch are in. Anthony Orji out. He tore his ACL last week. Benda, the UDFA out of Texas, and now Otis Reese, the fourth, out. So a lot of that to do with special teams, I'm sure. Yeah. So we're not overreacting to anything, still looking at it as James Williams in the driver's seat then.
No overreaction there. You spent the vast majority of that segment talking about last names. So
okay, well, I do have a clarification on that. So he is not.
Nobody asked for clarification.
I would like to know.
If you were a junior, you would have to have the exact same name as your father. If you are a second, you would have to be named after another family member that is not your father. So everybody in the chat that's like, I'm not junior, I'm the second. Well, if you're named after your daddy, you're junior, buddy. Like, I think sometimes people, I don't know how you mix our voices up, but Stephen Hall goes, Bird is wrong. Once you have three in a line, everyone switches to numerals. That's what I said. He's junior. You're on my side, Stephen. What do you argue? You're arguing with yourself.
I do also get your voice and Buck's voice confused all the time.
Famously. I don't think they get our voices confused. I think they just take the example that we set for them, and they don't listen to us either.
You know what we were listening to 1 year ago yesterday?
What?
Creed. That came across my timeline.
No way.
Yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of Creed taking us higher at Ascend Amphitheater and Robert being caught with a corn dog halfway in his mouth.
I don't think I could have been higher.
That was a great corn That was a great corn dog. I could have eaten 12 of those.
That was a great picture.
I've never seen. It's both as grotesque and as sensual an image as one could find on the internet.
In fact, we met the gentleman who took that picture at Beer Fest, a game terminal back in, I think that was back in April, and he works for Yazoo Brewing, which is where we will be to celebrate the college football kickoff, Friday, August 29th. Robert and myself, Blaine and Zach, 3HL, from 10 to 6 p.m., broadcasting live from Yazoo Brewing Company in Madison. And while you're there, come hang out, sign up for a chance to win Tennessee football season tickets, and much more. Free kickoff T-shirts, glasses, and other prizes for the first 250 people. So go to 1045thezone.com/events to learn more. Buck won't be there. It'll be a great time celebrating the start of the college football season. Can't wait.
You don't want me there for that.
No, we don't. There is only one more Saturday without college football before we are gifted with first week 0. Now, Tennessee will be wearing Nike this season, but next season they will not. And we'll tell you about the cash the Vols are getting with their new apparel deal next.
Just about 11 o'clock. Good morning. Live from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. A little bit of Titans free agency news as they have been awarded linebacker Brian Asamoah the second off of waivers, waiving linebacker Otis Reese. Asamoah has been with the Minnesota Vikings since he was selected in the third round in the 2022 NFL Draft. In 46 career games with the Vikings, he's produced 20 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery on defense, plus an additional 10 tackles and a forced fumble on special teams. In 2024, he saw action in all 17 games for the first time in his career, primarily on special teams, tallied 4 special teams tackles and a special teams forced fumble. Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is expected to hear his disciplinary hearing with the NFL on Tuesday, September 30th in New York. This means that Rice will likely be able to play at least the first 4 weeks of the season before any disciplinary action is imposed. So he would play against the Chargers in Brazil, the Eagles, the Giants, and the Ravens. And in former Titans news, 49ers place former first-round pick offensive lineman Andre Dillard on season-ending injured reserve. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
I like to think that if you were to walk through Tennessee's athletic facility right now, or at least walk near Danny White's office, you would hear this song, Baby Billy from the Righteous Gemstones, just blaring on every speaker as Tennessee has officially inked a 10-year deal with Adidas, the official apparel provider of the Vols, beginning in the fall of 2026. So the 2026 academic year. Nike is gone, Adidas, and the cash is here. Vols fans have had mixed reactions to this. The money, I think, has influenced a lot of opinion, and some of the other details that we'll talk about here have done that as well. I know you, Buck, had thoughts on this. Welcome back. Buck's in Atlanta. Robert and I are in studio here in Nashville. We're with you until 1 o'clock because your alma mater made a similar switch in terms of the gear they were wearing. I don't know about the actual figure, but what was your reaction to Indiana making a similar move back to Adidas?
So this was a long time ago. It was pre-NIL, obviously. So the parameters on that will have changed because the money is the most important thing here, right? You're trying to make sure that your athletic department is as financially viable to pay as high a profile athletes or as talented of athletes as humanly possible, and to make sure all your programs under the purview of the athletic department thrive as a result. Facilities, all the things that you need to recruit and to obtain talent at a high level. So that's the starting point on it. I hated it when Indiana switched from Nike to Adidas because they started messing with the one thing that I care about the most. They started messing with the basketball uniforms. Like the football uniforms, I don't give a damn about, right? Indiana football is not a thing until very, very recently. And now all of a sudden people are treating them like they should have national championship aspirations, which is fun. But the one thing that I hold sacred in my sports life,
by the way.
I don't know. I see a lot of hype from Fox specifically, but maybe that's just because they got Big Ten games this fall.
Yeah, that's it.
It's smart by them. I hated it because they started messing with my basketball uniforms, and that's the only thing that I care about in my sports life. It's the only thing that I'm going to hem and haw about with the with uniforms generally, because for the most part, I don't care. Wear whatever you want as long as you win. But they have an offshoot brand, guys, called Fear of God. Are you familiar?
No.
All right. So Fear of God is an Adidas offshoot brand, or under the umbrella of Adidas, kind of like Yeezy and the tennis shoes there for a while. And they started working Fear of God concepts into the basketball uniforms, and they make me insane. I despise them, and they will come for your basketball program too. Now, I know that's not as important to Vols fans. Again, the war chest, the money is what matters at the end of the day. But if you look it up, Lucas, I don't know if I'm assuming you got your laptop in front of you. if you look up the Indiana Fear of God uniforms, you will see why I hate them. Because they're trying to get into this high-end athleisure wear type of stuff. So they've got, like Lululemon and Aloe and all these other brands. They're gross. They are gross. And because this deal was done pre-NIL, and doesn't mean that Adidas can't up their offering and pay more money to make me get over it, but I cannot stand when they wear the Fear of God uniforms with the basketball team, and I don't know how Tennessee fans will feel about it, because that is, when you sign up for a deal like this, you are also signing up to promote the other offshoot brands that Adidas or Nike or any of these other parent companies have under their purview. And I hate the Fear of God concepts.
Well, I don't necessarily know if that's the case. There are a lot of details about this deal that Tennessee wants to keep under wraps, because they are touting it as the greatest apparel deal in the history of college sports, and they don't want that repeated or one-upped, right? And we have figures on it. Chris Lowe of ESPN reported yesterday that Nike was coming in at about $5.5 million annually. Adidas is coming in at $20 million. Almost 4 times more what Nike was bringing in for Tennessee athletics, so much so that Nike didn't even attempt to come back with a counteroffer with what Adidas came in with. Now, Tennessee fans have similar opinions of Adidas in terms of the look that you do as an IU alum, because the Adidas look, especially towards the end, because I think we hit a point in, I want to say 2010, and Oregon obviously was a huge part of this with Nike, right, where schools just started to do more with uniforms. There was a point in 2010 where, I swear, Buck, mid-season, the uniforms became tighter, right? Like, we went from these, practice, baggy football jerseys to the almost look skin-tight ones over your pads. I swear it happened in the middle of the 2010 season, at least for Tennessee. And then you started to see more experimentation, the smoky grays, and Adidas just didn't do a good job with those towards the end. Nike immediately upgraded Tennessee's look in 2014. So Vols fans, when they initially saw this, which this has been brewing for a couple of months, were just beside themselves. But another component of this is Tennessee will have creative control over what their look will be across the board in all sports. That was apparently a huge deal for them. And it's the way that Adidas is publicly driving this NIL program to sign high school and college athletes to major marketing campaigns. This is going straight into Tennessee's NIL fund, straight into it. And the thing is, we have to see it, right? So at what point do Tennessee fans feel like they need to start seeing the benefits of this deal, right? We've talked about it from a recruiting standpoint. Tennessee is a top 10-ish school right now in recruiting, which is good. It's not championship good. So if we're going to get to a point where it's, okay, that's the next step now, you have to get into that top 3, top 5 realm. Will this deal with Adidas contribute to that? Because they are reportedly already in the process of using this money to go into those resources. So you kind of need to start seeing the impact, I think, in this upcoming recruiting class, in the class of 2027, for you to feel like this deal is having a substantial positive impact on the university. So the concerns Tennessee fans have, I think, are a little overblown, because the program will have creative control. And in the end, money wins. And Danny White is a fundraiser at heart. It's what he does best. So this will go straight into a talent pool. So in the end, it looks like a win-win for Tennessee, but we'll see if it turns into wins on the field. Because if it doesn't, then you're looking around like, what more do we need, right? I mean, what other resources could we possibly have to turn this into actual championships?
Yeah, I would agree with your position on that you should start to see immediate dividends, especially if the money is already being implemented that way. And I love that Tennessee has the clause in there that allows them to maintain creative control, because that means to me that they understand their fan base. There are going to be protections in place. Don't worry, we've got you. We hear you, we know you, we understand you. We also don't want to deal with you if Adidas does something wrong, and then we have to hear about it after the fact. That's wise on the part of Tennessee, and I'm sure other institutions that, there's not that many fan bases similar to Tennessee, Ohio State, Alabama, I suppose, like at the very, very top tier of college football and college athletics insanity, where those protections would have to be in place. People hate change, right? People just generally hate change. So there's always going to be a portion of the population that says something is going to be different than I've come to know it to be, and I don't like that. And, in months from now or, years from now, nobody will care. Nobody will remember. The only thing that you'll remember is, did that money that Adidas gave us help us land the 5-star quarterback or the 5-star left tackle or the 5-star pass rusher? Like, that at the end of the day is all that matters about any transactions associated with your athletic department. Can they help support the program and upgrade the talent profile of your rosters across the board, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, or what have you?
There is an irony into what Tennessee fans' major gripe is with this, beyond what the Adidas uniforms looked like in 2011-ish, before the switch in 2014. And one of those gripes is outlined here by Browning Casey on the F&M Bank chat. Is there any concern with them going to Adidas that they will lose out on the kids who want Nike when they're being recruited? And there's a great irony to that, because this is all done for recruiting purposes. And I would say that matters probably less than ever, especially in football, right? A school wearing Adidas versus Nike, that's what the money's for. So I don't know how many kids out there are going to rebuff a deal that earns them $250,000 a year more because a school was wearing Adidas over Nike, right? Or Under Armour over Nike, or whatever apparel they seem to prefer.
If it does, you don't want that kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, bud. You just stay home, wear whatever jersey you want.
Why don't you take a lap? Why don't you take a lap there, Leroy? Yeah. It's going to be okay. Like, if we can't shove enough money down your throat to make you get over the fact that it's Adidas instead of Jordan brand or whatever,
like, it's
the
not
case
Hoka,
may be.
Man.
They're very comfortable. They are also ugly as sin, the Hokas.
It's not New Balance out here producing SEC football jerseys.
Easy. There's a portion of our FM radio audience that is probably direct consumers of the New Balance brand. Yeah, I think that, to your point, and I've repeated this line over and over and over again because of the amount of truth that it carries, and not just sports, but in every other aspect of life. The answer to all of your questions will forever and always be how much? How much money do I get? How much money do you have? How much money can you spend? And this works to the affirmative in all of those things.
Adam Sparks kind of summed it up in his reporting on Knox News. He said, Tennessee will be to Adidas what Oregon is to Nike and Notre Dame is to Under Armour. Kind of, I mean,
any comparison to Nike and Oregon is crazy.
Yeah,
so.
No, for sure. I mean, that level of relationship investment, it's another level, right? Where the founder of Nike is literally an Oregon alum. But in principle, I think just what he's saying is Tennessee is in this deal with Adidas to basically be the flagship athletic department of Adidas, the way Oregon is with Nike and Notre Dame is with Under Armour.
Well, and Danny White, I'm sure, is there to take advantage of the dollar signs that brings.
Yep, and it'll be hitting the bank accounts of student athletes as well. Cam Ward had some things to say yesterday that you don't typically hear from a player his age, any rookie, regardless of position, and it leads to a wider conversation about how rookie quarterbacks can be put in a position to succeed in the NFL. And we'll look at some recent history of that conversation coming up next. So we talk all the time about the importance of stability for rookie quarterbacks. What's the Kevin O'Connell quote? The Vikings head coach will be here for the preseason finale next week, that oftentimes organizations fail young quarterbacks more than young quarterbacks fail organizations. Most of the time that comes from some level of instability. So Cam Ward, after practice yesterday in Atlanta, or in Flowery Branch, was asked about what stability would do for him in his early development as an NFL quarterback.
I think it'll unlock everything. You see it with the best quarterbacks out there. Tom Brady, he has stability. Lamar, he has stability. Pat, he has stability. And so I just think a lot of guys who have stability in the NFL can succeed, I wouldn't say at a faster rate, but can succeed long term. And I just think that's what we need in Tennessee. We haven't had that in a long time, but I think the guys we have right here, offensively and defensively, I think we got the stability to do it.
That's Cam Ward speaking with Titans media. Buck, checking in from Georgia, was there in attendance at that press conference. And Buck, Cam continues to sound like he's 33 and not 23.
Wise beyond his years, but also, like, does he have more wisdom than the person that owns this team? Because he's speaking more sense than she has of late. I mean, he's speaking more generally than she has of late. But I hope that the people that own this franchise are listening to their quarterback, because he's right. And I'm sure the people around that quarterback are telling him it's in your best interest if Brian Callahan is here. Now, listen, that doesn't mean it has to be in perpetuity. They don't have to have a 20-year run together like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady did. How long have Harbaugh, Lamar's in the league, what, Robert, 8 years?
Seems like 2.
Yeah, I mean, but he's only 28. It's crazy that he got drafted at 20. And
he was an 18 pick, right? I think the year before Jeff.
That's right.
That sounds correct. So, I think it does matter, because you see how often teams will fire people at will when the owner gets fed up or dissatisfied or impatient, and it work in the worst interest of everybody else except the ownership, because the ownership gets what they want. In that moment, they get blood, and they get new, and they get, whatever, come what may. But the amount of quarterbacks who have been derailed by these situations, who are still, by the way, getting derailed by the constant churn that their ownership groups put them in when they just fire people year over year. Lucas, I looked this up after, and it was a great question by Teron Davenport of ESPN, who asked the initial question. And in fact, if you have that full 3-question exchange, I know it's about 2 minutes, but go get it. Because
now you have to ask nicely for him to go get it.
I'm not going to. Now,
okay, well, you're not going to get it.
Well, that's then the audience should be pissed at you, not me. I want people to hear from him, because it's as expansive, both of you, it's as expansive as he's been at the podium about anything, because it impacts him hugely. There have been 9 quarterbacks, including Cam Ward, drafted with the number 1 overall pick, going back to 2015. Jameis Winston is where we would start there. So we'll just, we'll
what do you think that got better from yesterday to today as you go back and, look at yesterday's practice and then compare it to today?
Well, I just think we made plays today on the perimeter. The quarterbacks, us 3, putting the ball in a receiver's position to have him let him make a play for us. So I think that's the biggest difference from yesterday and today, is that we were able to make plays, in the passing game. I think the running game is always going to be one of our standpoints. I think today we averaged probably like 5 to 6 yards a pop every time we handed it off to the backs. And I just think the O-line just brought the physicality even more than what they did yesterday.
What do you think when the ball leaves your hand and you realize you didn't put it out of bounds and the DB's got a chance there on that throwaway?
This is the only 3-part anything I pulled, so you'd have to give me a better example.
The last 3 questions from the press conference, because that's what we're talking about, not whatever the hell it is that you just threw out there.
All right, you can do the show by yourself until he wants to text me and be nice.
Oh, well, I do want to align with you, but I also don't want to do this whole segment by myself.
All right.
But what were the examples that you had, while we do look for what he's talking about with the stability and a more long-term answer?
It really shouldn't be that hard, Robert. I'm not being sarcastic about that. It's the last 3 questions that he was asked at the end of the press conference.
There you go. There's a more apologetic tone.
Well, I just, I'm trying not to be a complete bleep hole, but I also want the audience to hear it because it matters. So Jameis, do you remember who Jameis's rookie coach was?
I don't remember.
Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith got fired the following year. So Jameis gets drafted in 2015. Lovie gets fired. Dirk Cutter becomes the coach of the the coach of the Bucs. You go back through the list, and it's not an exact thing, right? Like it's not a year-by-year trend where this happens every year because the 9 quarterbacks that have been drafted since 2015, Jameis, Goff, Baker, Kyler, Joe Burrow, Lawrence, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, and then Ward. So 9 quarterbacks in that time frame. Jameis, Lawrence, Bryce Young, and Caleb Williams all were drafted by one coach, and that coach didn't see the second year with them. So it's not a one-to-one thing. That's 4 out of the 9. And Cam Ward, you can leave Cam Ward off the list if you want to because we haven't played out his first season yet. But that was the impetus for the question. This is kind of a trend here with ownership and patience that when you draft a number 1 overall quarterback, scrutiny ramps up and it becomes infinitely more likely that your head coach is under the microscope and may get fired. How do you kind of prevent that trend from happening, which is why he got into such detail and was so expansive about this. And, he hasn't spent enough time, I don't think, with Brian Callahan or Nick Holtz or Bo Hardigree, all the people that he mentioned, to have, attachment or detachment one way or the other. It may not be a perfect marriage long term, but you have to give it more than 1 year. We've talked about this before. If you commit to Cam Ward, you have to commit to Brian Callahan for his rookie year and then the following year. For the sake of Cam Ward, you can make changes after that because changes may be necessary. That's entirely too far in the future. But Bryce Young, do you remember who Bryce Young's coach was his rookie year? Because I'd forgotten this.
Wasn't it? Was it Frank Reich?
It was Frank Reich.
Yeah, Frank Reich, right.
It was Frank Reich. Frank Reich got fired in that season.
Yeah.
Eberflus got fired in that season. We'll see what happens with Brian Callahan. And then, of course, Trevor Lawrence was Urban Meyer. So these are very specific examples of things that went wrong. But it's not like Cam Ward is in a more functional organization of late than any of those franchises that we just named. And I think he means it when he says, for me to succeed and for all of us to succeed, I have to have continuity here. And that's what that's the clip that you played, Robert, is the middle of that 3-question exchange. Because he's asked about breaking the trend first. And then the follow-up is, why does continuity matter? And then Nick Suss asks the third and final question of the press conference, which is, how much pressure do you feel directly that so many people's jobs are relying upon you? And I think it's a fascinating look because he's honest about it.
Let's hear from Cam Ward on just that.
He's going to put me in the best position to succeed. And that's what my quarterback coach, Coach Bo, and the OC, Coach Nick. I'm trying to play as long as I can for Tennessee with those 3 guys at the helm. Those guys, they continuously give me feedback even when I don't want feedback, and they continuously get me better. When I ask questions, they answer every question to the little detail as much as I need it. So I'm blessed to have those 3, in the same room with me. They push me to be great. I want to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I just think the more that we continuously build our relationship, us 3, Coach Callahan, continuously getting to know what I like on the field, when I like it on the field, then me also being smart with the ball and gaining that trust every day from him to have those play calls, whether he wants to go deep or do quick game. I just think he's going to end up helping all 3 of us out in the long run.
So that's Cam Ward talking about that yesterday. I'm trying to think of the last quarterback drafted number 1 overall that had that sort of instability that ended up kind of rising above it in a way that he was effective for the team that drafted him. And I think you probably have to go back to Jared Goff, right? Drafted by Jeff Fisher and the Rams. Obviously, Coach Mack was on that staff. And then Sean McVay comes in and he elevates Jared Goff and they get to a Super Bowl. I understand it ended how it ended, but those are far and few between. The ones that had that type of success despite that sort of coaching turnover early on in their career.
Yeah, but Fisher made it 216, or I guess 217, right? Fisher was the head coach in 17. He got fired halfway through. Mm-hmm. John Fossil, famously, was the interim coach at the end of that season, the now Titans special teams coach there. So, even Goff had some level of, all right, we're going to try this for another year, and it didn't work. Now, so say they give Callahan another year if this year goes poorly with Cam Ward. doesn't mean that you have to stick with Brian Callahan if you know that this is not the direction that you want to go in all the way through 2026. But you have to at least give him a year plus to determine that for Cam Ward's sake. And the fact that the 23-year-old that talks like he's 33 has more wisdom on this subject than a lot of NFL owners do, I think is kind of crazy, but also very telling. He wants to succeed. He knows what gives him the best chance to succeed. And the fact that he's comfortable expanding on it that way, I hope somebody upstairs is listening to him.
Well, you're right that, and it's obvious that stability puts a young quarterback in a better position to succeed. But at some point, a line has to be drawn, right, of stability for the sake of stability or a necessary change. Like, we don't look back at the Trevor Lawrence situation in Jacksonville and say, well, maybe if they had just kept things stable and kept Urban Meyer in there, right? Like, we're all on the same page. Urban Meyer had to go, and that's bad decision-making by the organization from the beginning on not doing their homework. I think everybody and their mother expected that to be a catastrophic failure, and that's exactly what it was. Most of these, let's say, in the last 10 years. So Jameis Winston to now. Jameis Winston drafted in 2015. Are there any of those quarterbacks that you could look at and say, well, yeah, that coach probably shouldn't have been fired. That quarterback could have been in a better position to succeed if he had continued to have that same head coach? I feel like
Frank Reich.
Yeah, Frank Reich.
That's a glaring example of a bad owner,
bad ownership,
getting impatient,
and
losing his mind, and creating factions. Well, there were several different national reporters talking about a Game of Thrones or what's the Hunger Games type of atmosphere in the Panthers building that year, and Frank Reich being just a victim of it, like an absolute mess. Caleb Williams should never have had Matt Eberflus in the first place.
Yes, most of the time, it's just being put in a position to fail to begin with.
So, how do you mitigate the number of ways that a less than trustworthy ownership structure could put a player like Cam Ward in less of a position to succeed than humanly possible? Callahan is here. Callahan, you hired him for a very specific reason. Are you going to trust him to do that job? And if you don't, are you going to give it the necessary time to let it play out, even if you have a losing record this year, which continues to be the reason that she states that she fires people?
But for the most part, just looking back at those last 10, Jameis Winston, 2015. Lovie Smith had 2 years in Tampa. Both years they finished bottom of the division. First year, dreadful, right? 2-14, and then 6-10 in their second year, but you didn't see enough tangible improvement there. Oh, who was Lovie Smith replaced by in Tampa? Remind me.
Dirk Cutter,
that's right.
Falcons OC.
Well, yeah, that didn't work great either. But, okay, I think we're
and also some of this could be Jameis. Like Jameis.
Sure.
Jameis is not.
Sure. But I don't think we look back at that and say, well, maybe Jameis would have worked long-term in Tampa if they had just kept Lovie Smith, right? Jared Goff, like the move to Sean McVay, obviously elevated Jared Goff and the offense. 2018, Baker Mayfield, Hugh Jackson. Like, no, that one had to go. Like that coaching change.
They had the worst 2-year record, I think, of it. I mean, that was which season was it that Hugh Jackson didn't win a game?
2016? I'm not sure. It was before Baker. It was, because, one of those seasons ended up being what led to choosing Baker with the number 1 overall pick.
So if you're going to fire him when you go 0-16.
17 is when they went 0-16.
So the year before Baker.
Yes, that's what got them the number 1 pick. Hugh Jackson made it 8 games before he was fired in 2018.
The only organization that is any kind of trustworthy and should be regarded as any kind of stable that made bad decisions around their quarterback or may have just been in a situation where that quarterback was never going to succeed at the pro level anyway is Tampa. Look at the clubs that we're talking about here. Bears, Panthers, Jags, Browns, like the worst. The worst. And the Titans are in that have been in the last couple of years in that category. And need to find a way to not be mentioned as one of the worst or some of the worst run organizations in football. Firing Brian Callahan, being reactionary with Brian Callahan around Cam Ward would put you in the same category as all these godforsaken bad football teams that stay bad because they're poorly run.
Yeah, you look through these, it's almost like every other quarterback ended up having some level of success with the team that drafted them, right? Like you go, Trevor Lawrence, all right, to be saying TBD 4 years later is not a very good sign, but Liam Cohen's there. We'll see how that works. 2020, Joe Burrow. Yep, hit. 2019, Kyler Murray. Okay, I think he's the franchise quarterback of the Cardinals. 2018, Baker with Cleveland. He's having a great time now, but not in Cleveland. 2016, Goff. He's not there anymore, but he took them to a Super Bowl, and so, okay. 2015, Jameis. Didn't work. 2012, Andrew Luck. That worked. Like, it's literally like every other one hits to some level of success with the place that drafted them. A lot of them, though, hit at a different spot. Because, to your point, most of the time the team picking number one overall is a team that has something worse than the quarterback position going on. Some deep level of dysfunction, and it's hard to claw out of that. So the Titans are trying to claw out of that with this extreme long-term plan, which is the right thing to do, but we'll see if they stick to it. But I guess at what point, if the results just aren't there and we don't see the progress this year, do you have to draw that line and say, we understand the importance of stability, but there has to be a breaking point where, okay, the stability is not worth what isn't happening right now with our rookie quarterback.
What's wrong with giving it 2 years? You already suck. You already know you're going to suck. What's wrong with giving it 2 years?
Yeah, and it's case by case, obviously. Like, I agree with you, but
here specifically.
Yeah, here's
this specific case.
Yeah, because like I said, for most of those firings, like, should the Bears have given Eberflus another year? No. Should the Jags have given Urban? No. But
like, Lucas, the fact that everybody knew. It's like the Jags keeping Trent Baalke. Everybody in the world knew that nobody wanted to work with Trent Baalke, and they kept him anyway until the one guy that they tried to hire said, no, I'm not coming to work for Trent Baalke.
Yeah.
How the hell can everybody in the world, in the football-consuming world, fans, media, other clubs, and otherwise, know something that just somebody who's most responsible for the success or failure of the organization just can't figure out or is too stubborn to listen to? I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is here or in those other instances. But everybody knew that Urban Meyer was a bad idea, and they did it anyway. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew that Trent Baalke was a bad idea. They did it anyway. Everybody knew that keeping Matt Eberflus was a bad idea, and they did it anyway.
Those are my favorite ones. The ones that we all know how it's going to end. And there are some that, that there's a certain school of thought that this is going to go very poorly, and it goes well. Like, nobody would have predicted the Dan Campbell era to go as well as it has. I don't think anybody would have predicted the Nick Sirianni era to go as well as it has, right?
Not based on that first press conference.
That's what I'm saying.
Such a dope.
People take these lasting impressions from an introductory press conference, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. And Dan Campbell has the Lions in a better place than they've been in multiple decades. But more often than not, those moves that people universally look at and say, oh, there's just no way this will work. Typically, those don't work. Because typically, those are made by organizations that are grasping for straws, right? Like the Jags were desperate. They were desperate. So they said, let's do something outside of the box here. Let's bring in Urban Meyer. And it failed catastrophically. Which, that's the funniest one, by the way, of all of them.
We're getting some tweets like Titan Main 615. You can most definitely fire Callahan midseason, and the Titans should. I believe he will be fired by week 6. The offense hasn't gotten any better with him, and I think it's best for Cam Ward. He tags the wrong Cam Ward account, but that's fine. To get experienced play callers in. Callahan success has come off the backs of very talented players without Manning or Burrow.
Oh, man, he's got a thread going.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole thing. Callahan just isn't it. Doesn't pass the eye test play calling wise. Don't jack this up, Miss Amy. No, to send it into another state of flux, because then you're just hitting the reset button, and Cam Ward's stuck in the middle of it. It's beyond stupid. Beyond stupid. Like, I don't know if Brian Callahan's a good head coach. I have no idea. No idea. I know that there is genuine effort to improve these things, and I think he's a very detail-oriented person. The dividends of that, I couldn't possibly tell you what they'll play out. I also know he had a quarterback who is as unstable as any quarterback I've ever seen play professional football, nuking him at every turn.
Yeah.
And a special teams coordinator that nuked him at every turn. Like, there are things here that were beyond. I mean, the special teams coordinator was within his control, and he made a change. And the quarterback thing, they had no choice but to make a change. Like, you just ignore the Will Levis in the middle of all of this thing? Of course not.
Yeah, I feel like I learned nothing about Callahan as a play caller.
Nothing.
Last year. I agree with you, but again, there is always a breaking point. There always is. So We'll see what that breaking point would be for the Titans, and if they get anywhere close to it, for the sake of all of us and for Titans fans everywhere, let's hope that we don't have that discussion, because in principle, I think we're all in agreement. Yes, it is more beneficial than not to have stability around your head coach and your quarterback coach and your offensive coordinator when you're trying to break in a rookie quarterback.
But just quickly, Lucas, if week 7, so say they lose to the Patriots week 7, which is that's kind of the thing that's circling
the Vrabel game. Yeah,
the Vrabel game. They don't have to fire him in week 7. But if we find out after the fact that was the thing that made her decide to fire Callahan at the end of the season or something like that, same old Titans.
Well, let's not get pre-mad about things that haven't happened before the season kicks off.
But I'm saying, like, these, you keep things in the back of your head that foreshadow how this thing will go. And that is something that every Titans fan and anybody who cares about the success of this franchise should be looking at and say, that will be a telling touch point in whether they have changed their behavior or not. You don't have to get mad about it, but you can pay attention to it.
Well, there's been plenty of foreshadowing on who the Titans' number 1 receiver will be this season, and he flashed playing in the city where he used to live and play. We'll talk about Calvin Ridley's week of joint practice next. Great to see Jim Wyatt back at it with the Britches Report ahead of preseason game number 2 tomorrow, Titans and Falcons at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They'll be in all white again, like they were in the preseason opener against Tampa. But front and center in the Britches Report at Jay Wyatt Sports on Twitter, Cam Ward next to Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley, Buck, had a lot to say at joint practice this week and flashed, it seemed like, against his former team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's very effective in these situations, especially one-on-one. Like, there's very few people who move or are as fast in professional football anywhere in the league as Calvin Ridley. And so him scorching A.J. Terrell in one-on-ones shouldn't be a surprise because that's an offensive drill. Like, Calvin Ridley's supposed to win. If Calvin Ridley wasn't winning those drills, you would be surprised. And so he comes off the practice field yesterday, and like it was a better day. It was a better day than Tuesday. Tuesday was objectively bad. Like it was flat across the board. I didn't think the Falcons were particularly great either, but the Titans were appreciably worse. And the Titans were still the worst team overall on Wednesday, but that shouldn't surprise anybody. They have so much further to go in all of this, and the talent profile of the Falcons is greater than the talent profile of the Titans. Let's not break in any news here. But Calvin Ridley comes off the field yesterday, and he is not really chirping, but like I saw him walking off, and I said, "Hey, Calvin, what's up?" And he said, "Not much. Great day practice." He's been chirping at Falcons fans. He's scoring touchdowns. He's spiking a ball in the end zone. He's like, "Y'all remember me? This, that, and the other." He's clearly had a high energy day of practice, and so he's making his way towards their makeshift locker room, and he says, "Hey, we won today. Y'all write that. Y'all make sure you write that." And he said something else like, "We're on tour," or something like that. Okay. And maybe he's on tour, whatever. I didn't quite catch the exact phrasing of the second thing that he yelled. But I tweeted it out, and I said, Calvin Ridley coming off the practice field says, "We won today. Y'all make sure you write that." And somebody responded to me on Twitter and said, "Will you write that?" Well, I said, no, because they didn't. But Calvin was fine. And Falcons Twitter got a hold of the tweet and was, going on whatever grievances they had to air about Calvin Ridley and his time here and the way that things devolved at the end and the gambling suspension and all that kind of stuff, right? Like all these old wounds reopened because it's the first time that Calvin Ridley has been back at the facility in Flowery Branch.
It looked like he won individually.
Yeah, no, he won. He won. No, nobody's disputing that. But Calvin saying we won makes it a different subject because no, you didn't. You collectively, the Titans, did not win a practice. And like all this, who won the practice, who lost the practice day by day thing. Did you get better? Did you learn something? Do you have things to take away? Did you take advantage of opportunity? Or did you slough off on a day of work the way that it looks like they kind of laid down on Tuesday and didn't take it full advantage of a joint training camp practice? That's how I came away from Tuesday feeling. Wednesday, I felt differently. Yeah, they made mistakes. Yeah, Cam Ward threw interceptions. Okay, learn from them and improve. So this winning and losing of practice days, and I know fans will judge it that way, and there will be articles written or blogs written about winners and losers of that day of joint practice, whatever. I just Calvin clearly, whatever motivates him, I don't care as long as he produces. If hard feelings from his time with the Falcons or the Jags motivates him, I don't care. Whatever gets him going. If last year's embarrassments motivate him and gets him going and lead to a better 2025, I don't care. Just get it done. There was a lot of commentary from Falcons fans and the odd Jags fan chiming in about how much talking Calvin does without production. When in reality, like, his statistical production is there and has been there basically every year of his career, but it's almost like a higher level version of the Chigakonkwo discussion that we've had. Like, are you doing these things in games that matter? And I think that, Jags fans and Falcons fans that dealt with Calvin Ridley during his respective times there like to make the case or try to make the case that Calvin Ridley is not as impactful as his statistics would connote.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Buck broadcasting from his hotel room in Beaufort, Georgia. Robert and I back in studio with you until 1 o'clock, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Let's go to the phones as Luke is in Hendersonville. What's up, Luke?
Hey, guys. Buck, why are you already getting so upset about things that haven't even happened, man? You get more upset than an actual Titans fan. I think.
What are you talking about?
Well, about firing Callahan after the Patriots game. Like you were.
I'm not upset about that.
You were predicting it anyway.
No, I wasn't predicting it. I said keep an eye on it if it happens, and if they follow the same pattern of behavior, then that's something to keep in the back of your mind.
Could feel you getting actively worked up as he talked about the scenario.
Elevating my voice does not mean that I'm upset about something I didn't predict anything.
He just has an attitude and tone issue in general, Luke.
Yeah, I have a bad tone. Like that's just generally what it is.
Okay, I believe you, but you sounded upset about it like it was a foretold thing. But anyway, I do agree that they got to keep Callahan. You're 100% right that we really don't know what kind of coach he is. He could be great, he could suck, but for that one guy to say that his play calling didn't improve or anything with ignoring all those other things is stupid. We don't know if the play calling's improved because they haven't played yet in actual regular season games. So I do think they've got to keep him for the whole year, see how things go. If they win 6 or 7 games and the team looks better as a whole and special teams can help close that gap and prevent all those blowouts, then keep them and just keep it going. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks for the call. The guy wants me to do the radio show like Ross, just monotone mouth breathing into the radio for 3 hours.
Oh, stop. But yeah, we're on this. I think most Titans fans, like some might have their mind made up on Brian Callahan, sure. But I imagine
that's stupid. I mean, that's objectively
agreed.
Stupid.
Like if you are taking last year to make this determination on Brian Callahan in his first year as a head coach and as a play caller with everything that held back that football team, then that's crazy. It's crazy. This is the year where it feels like we'll get an opportunity to really learn about Brian Callahan as a head coach and just an offensive play caller.
Yeah, and it's not to say that that there can't be issues. Like I brought this up several times, and I think I made mention of it specifically with you and Blaine yesterday, Lucas. That 4th and 2 situation with Brandon Allen where he doesn't call timeout. Like, that's something you can keep in the back of your mind. Like, are you a plus in in-game situations? Are you at an advantage? Whatever, and you only compare him to the thing that came before, right? So the thing that came before was not just Mike Vrabel, it was John Stryker. You see there's pieces being written about Stretch in the Boston Globe this week. Ben Jones had mentioned that Stretch was...
I just assume your Vrabel notifications were on, and whenever something's written about Vrabel and the Patriots, you get it straight to your phone.
I mean, I really think that Titans fans are being fed Vrabel-heavy stuff in the algorithm because they engage with it. I do think that's true. But there's a think piece being written on Stretch, who is one of the things that you want to talk about things that Mike Vrabel was overrated for. I think Vrabel's in-game situation, not that Mike is not good at in-game situations, but Stretch is actually as responsible for those teams being prepared, and he's just not the head coach, and he's not, leader of men or overwhelmingly like imposing figure the way that Mike is, so it's not as good a story to say, oh, that guy's tougher, stronger, faster, and smarter than you, but he's actually got eyes up into the booth that are helping him, and on a week-by-week basis, helping him prepare all of these situations to where they can out-duel Bill Belichick in a playoff game on the road, where they're taking advantage of that special team situation that allowed them to bleed clock at the end of the game. You remember what I'm talking about?
I do.
In 2019 divisional round, because where did Stretch go work when Mike Vrabel had the year off? Or Rams. He went to work with one of the smartest football coaches out there, Sean McVay. Like, the situational in-game stuff, they're going to be scrutinized. I'm talking about specifically the Titans. Who's the Stretch? Like, who does Brian Callahan have supporting him here to help him with these, to get in his ear and to assist him that way? And he's got his dad, who has head coaching experience, and he's got Mike McCoy on the staff, who has head coaching experience. Mike McCoy's addition to the staff this year is interesting. There will be people in the booth who will give him additional eyes and ears and strategic advice there, but are they going to be good enough to make them, as a staff, a plus on the sidelines? All of those things can be analyzed this year and factor into the decision-making as to whether these people are the right people to guide Cam Ward into the future.
Well, I understand Stretch's importance, but I also feel like the Titans' entire analytics department was Stretch in the Vrabel era, and there has been more investment to
honestly,
that end.
That should be more impressive
under this
that
regime.
they were doing it. That they didn't need to spend not that that's the best way to go
to
about
me, it still puts them behind the 8 ball with a lot of the NFL in terms of that side of things and where the game is going. But I get your point.
That's fine.
And how critical
it caught up to them at the end. But
Yep.
if you've got one person who's infinitely smarter at the rest of this than all the supercomputer people that you're going to hire to run the numbers, and they, end up being a better and more strategically sound football team than the 3-14 football team, that's not a plus either.
I am ready for somebody to win some games here to watch the slow realization for you that there are other good head coaches not named Mike Vrabel out there.
Hour number 3.
But
they haven't been here lately.
That's what I'm saying. Cam Ward has different rules than other Titans, it would seem, in the way that he's talking about this team. We'll talk about that next with Hour 3 on the other side.
What's going on? 12:02. Good afternoon. Live from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I am Robert Walsh. The Titans have been awarded linebacker Brian Asamoah the second off of waivers, waiving linebacker Otis Reese. Asamoah had been with the Minnesota Vikings since he was selected in the third round of the 2022 NFL Draft. In 46 career games with the Vikings, he produced 20 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery on defense, plus an additional 10 tackles and a forced fumble on special teams in 2024. He saw action in all 17 games for the first time in his career, primarily on special teams. We got an update on Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice, as he is expected to have a disciplinary hearing with the NFL on Tuesday, September 30th in New York. This means that Rice will now likely be able to play the first 4 weeks of the season before any potential discipline is imposed on his role in a multi-car crash in Dallas during the 2024 offseason. With Rice hearing now on track, he should be able to play in the 4 games aforementioned. The Chargers and Brazil, the Eagles, at the Giants, and the Ravens. In former Titans news, the 49ers placed former first-round pick offensive lineman Andre Dillard on season-ending injured reserve. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Leading into the 2025 season, the discourse about the Titans, from the Titans, is night and day different from what we heard in 2024. Checking all the boxes, that's not been the case going into 2025. But not when Cam Ward speaks. The confidence from the rookie quarterback has shown a clear shift in the rhetoric that's been displayed elsewhere, at least with the leadership currently with the franchise. Welcome back. Hour 3 of the program. Buck is in Buford, Georgia, ahead of tomorrow's preseason matchup against the Falcons. Robert and myself hanging out in studio with you until 1 o'clock, taking you right up until cover 2. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We're going to hear from Chad Brinker from before training camp started, and we're going to hear from Cam Ward on something he had to say yesterday that I'm sure you've heard by now about the Titans wide receiver core. But at what point did this strike you, Buck? Just Cam Ward's attitude about this football team compared to the messaging from leadership in the current Titans regime.
The first time that he said he thinks they can be a top 10 offense in, what was that, minicamp?
Yeah, he said that a while back. Like, he almost immediately said something to that effect.
And, you know, I just chalked it up to, not to be dismissive of him, but like, oh, that's cute. Like nobody else is going to.
Well, like Diego Pavia-esque? Like,
very much like Paul Feinbaum and Diego Pavia. Like, if he's Pavia, then I'm Feinbaum. I'm like, oh, did you mean to say that you have national championship aspirations at Vanderbilt? That's precious. You were serious about that, were you? And then, you know, Diego Pavia very quickly looks at him, or not very quickly, but like kind of pauses, and it's like, yeah, that's the standard.
Said I didn't crack a joke.
I didn't crack a joke. So I don't believe that Cam Ward isn't exactly a stand-up comedian up there. Actually, he's pretty funny when you see the level of creativity that he brings to his trash talk on the field.
I saw a video of him like doing karaoke and playing drums.
They had a talent show on what that would have been Tuesday night. Where they brought in like a karaoke company, and they had, you know, different things. Arden Key was overseeing it, the master of ceremonies, minister of vibes. Arden Key holding it down. I think the only video that I saw get out of that was Jeff Simmons' story. But yeah, so they're trying to give them things to break up the monotony of training camp, and also the difficulty of 10 days away from home, no matter what age you are, what point in your NFL career you are. But Cam Ward gets carte blanche to speak the way that he wants to, because Cam Ward was not one of the people on this roster upselling the Tennessee Titans in 2024. That was Rand Carthon and Burke Nihill and anywhere else that you really looked. Speaking of Titans heads of state, I don't think that Brian Callahan was overselling necessarily, but like Brian Callahan last year gets a bit of a pass, the same that Cam Ward does this year, where he's coming in here, first real attachment to the franchise, and saying, yeah, we believe that we are capable of doing more here. And then things went nuclear in 2024, and Brian Callahan suffered the humiliations that he did as the head coach of the Titans, and you move on. So Cam Ward has none of that associated with his name, other than he plays for that franchise now, and that the only reason that he plays for that franchise is because they were a humiliation in 2024. They were the worst team in football, so they earned very much the right to draft a quarterback number 1 overall. Which you want to start with, Brinker, or you want to start with Ward?
No, let's hear from Ward. It's the more recent cut from yesterday. A lot of people have probably heard it by now, but this is Cam Ward talking about the greatest assets on this Tennessee Titans team.
Just the playmakers that I have in the backfield with me, the running back core, then especially in the receiving core. I think I honestly have a top 5 receiver core in the NFL, including the young guys who are able to make plays. It's really all about just us or myself putting the ball in their frame of work, letting them make a play. And then it's also those guys being aggressive to make plays for the team. And then the O-line, I don't have to worry about them. That's going to always be the standpoint. Those guys, they bring the energy every day, especially starting with JC. So I'm excited to be behind those guys. Those guys' pass protection, they keep me clean. Really, I would say 8 times out of 10. I know I'm going to take a bad sack this year. They're going to give up a sack this year, but we just got to continue to play, good, clean football.
So that's Cam Ward yesterday.
Imagine 2023 Ryan Tannehill getting up at the podium and saying, yeah, the offensive line, I don't got to worry about those guys. We would have laughed in his face. We would have brayed laughing in his face. And Cam Ward hasn't played behind Dennis Daly or Andre Dillard or Nick Petit-Frere or any of these other things that make us jaded or cautious. What did you whisper your level of confidence about the Titans offensive line earlier?
I did, yes. My version of whispering.
Yeah, which is not a whisper at all. But he doesn't come with this baggage that all of the rest of us that have been associated with their level of football in the past, we'll call it 4 years. He doesn't come with that baggage. So does he, at his core, believe that they're capable of being a top 5 unit? I believe that he does, because what does he say right after that, Lucas? He says, because I believe that as long as I put them in the right position to succeed, then they're capable of doing the rest.
Yeah, because he believes in himself.
Because he believes in himself. So it's not, people are reading too much into top 5 wide receiver core and then looking at the roster and laughing out loud, because of course nobody's going to think that Calvin Ridley, 2 fourth-round rookies, the whatever's remaining of Tyler Lockett at this point in his career are going to be a top 5 wide receiver group. But then if you let the quote play out, it's because Cam Ward believes in himself and the ability to put those players in position to succeed. That's what makes it less of an outrageous statement or a hyperbolic statement, because all he's doing is the thing that he's done his entire career, which is saying, yeah, I've got this, and as long as I've got this, those guys are going to eat.
And then this is Chad Brinker speaking on Report Day, the day before the Titans started practicing, about 3 weeks ago at this point, talking about why he's excited about this season, but also his understanding of where they are right now as a program.
I'm excited about what we have going on right now, knowing where we are as a football program. But there's, I get it. There's not a lot of star power on this roster right now. I do think there are some stars that will come through at some point. We're excited about the draft class. Obviously, you got Cam Ward, and he's got a lot of work to do and a long road ahead of him too. But I think you all have seen the talent. It's pretty impressive. And you asked the question earlier about him, and just the way he's gaining the respect of his teammates is something that I've seen from the peripheral of. It's been impressive, but we also know this is a performance-based business, so he's got to go out and perform, and he knows that. And when he does, it's just going to elevate the entire program. So there's just a lot of improvement that we got to make all across the board.
So it's rare to see a president of football ops, general manager, ex-leadership executive NFL person say something like at the start of camp, we don't have a lot of star power on this roster. To me, it was an unusually honest assessment of where they are as a football team.
Yeah, because they have to be unusually honest, because if they hype this thing up at all, they're going to get fired.
Yeah, exactly. So, Cam, that's the thing. Nobody will fault Cam. I guess people would. Some people will. But nobody should fault Cam for saying he believes they have a top 5 receiver core. Like, that's his job, is to have that sort of confidence in himself and his abilities and the abilities of the guys around him, where it is the job of Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi and company to have a very realistic view of their surroundings, where this team is right now.
And it's more Brinker's job than anybody's, right? Because he's the longest tenured of the three of them that you associate at the top of the totem pole. I guess Burke Nihill, the Titans have 2 team presidents, right? One's the president of football, the other's the president of business. Nihill business and Brinker football. Brinker's probably closer to the edge than any of them, because what's Burke Nihill got in his pocket?
I mean, what do you mean, what does he have in his pocket?
He's got the new Nissan Stadium. And he's
sure.
added a billion to her net worth with the stadium. He is as responsible, and his team, his staff, is as responsible for improving her family and her net worth as much as anybody on the business side of things. They've done their job. Brinker is now associated with the football, and he's not the lone face associated with the football, but he's the longest lasting vestige of what has been here that's trying to guide them into the future of competency. So, of course, if you're Chad Brinker, you are going to keep your head as low as humanly possible, and you are going to try and make sure that everybody understands, no, guys, please. Like, he's saying everything but please. Please be patient here. Because I'm sure he believes that they've got the right things in order, but he knows damn well how far away they are. I mean, I think at the end of the day, everybody but Cam Ward does. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, if they finish with a losing record, Cam Ward will be disappointed. If they finish any less than a Super Bowl, Cam Ward will be disappointed in whatever happens in his rookie year, because that's the way that he's wired. But everybody else who understands the process that it's going to take to get them there, because they have all been associated with bad things that have come before it, must slow play expectations for the fan base, and more than anybody else in the world, the ownership. Because if you get her in a space where she thinks she's got something more than she actually has, a la 2024, then you are going to get fired when you disappoint.
Yeah, and that's the difference between this year and any other year or lead up to a season with Amy Adams Strunk as controlling owner. There has never been a more honest assessment in terms of measured expectation publicly.
Thank God. Now we just have to see if it takes, right? So Cam Ward, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Lucas, and within reason, but he can be about as confident or as trying to manifest this as he wants this year. Like, I'm not going to fault Cam Ward for trying to instill belief or project belief or genuinely believing that they are capable of more than the rest of us are going to give them credit for. He's the only one that I want to hear that from. Him and the rookies. The other rookies, they aren't associated with the ills of Titans football past, so they get to manifest this thing however they want to manifest this thing. But everybody else, they better keep the exact same company line as Chad Brinker.
I don't know if the Titans have a top 5 receiver core in the NFL. I do know that they don't at the moment. I love that Cam Ward is saying it. I also know that Nate Washington is definitely one of the top 5 receivers in Titans history. He's probably in the top 3, to say the least. He'll join us coming up next.
If you're not feeling the sizzle with your current financial advisor, call Trajan Wealth. You want to make sure that you're in the best possible position to succeed. If you're interested in wealth management that's designed to protect, maintain, and expand your financial portfolio, Trajan Wealth understands the importance of tactical investments and tailored insights for growth in line with your level of risk tolerance. They are there to help you achieve that financial independence that each and every one of us would benefit from, or are actively seeking if you have not yet achieved that. That's what Trajan Wealth is trying to help you do, trying to help you achieve your goals. And they will give you a sound plan to do that, whether it's retirement planning, wealth management, or tactical investments. 2 locations in Middle Tennessee, Brentwood and Franklin. You can call them at 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement.
Former Titans receiver Nate Washington set to join us. Welcome back. Buck Rising in Buford, Georgia. Lucas Panzica with you. Robert Walsh and I in studio back in Nashville. Hanging out until 1 o'clock, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Titans play Game 2 of the preseason tomorrow night, 6 p.m. kickoff against the Atlanta Falcons at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You can hear that game on Titans radio, of course, right here. Titans Countdown starting at 5 p.m. So 2 joint practices, and I'd say coming away from them, maybe not as positively as the takeaways from the Tampa joint practice, right? Like, what are some of the things that we'd like to see the Titans do tomorrow night that they were not able to do as well during joint practice?
Well, let's just make it about joint practice, between the difference between the 2 joint practices. They fared pretty well in the red zone against the Bucs in those red zone drills that they were running. They did not have that kind of success against the Falcons on either day. They were, I thought, solid in pass protection specifically against the Bucs and the Falcons. Frankly, again, based on what we were able to see from various vantage points, Falcons PR has different rules than Titans PR has different rules than Bucs PR, right? There's only so many different angles that you can try to get to on the field. But specific to the red zone offense is probably where I would go. Rush defense was not a problem for the Titans in the joint training camp practices this week. That was obviously an issue for the Titans in the game against the Bucs. That was not something that I guess necessarily popped when we were watching the 1 day of joint training camp practice in Tampa versus what we actually saw in the game. And there weren't that many explosives on the part of the Bucs that would skew that numbers. They skew that number. They just felt like they were getting 4 or 5 yards a clip at any given point. So I'd probably highlight the red zone offense specifically and the red zone passing offense specifically, because that's not something that we've seen Cam Ward have to do in a preseason game yet, and something that they've kind of, if they have negative plays in these red zone drills, Karski and I were watching this, and that's probably not the 2 people that you want to be standing next to when you're looking for, or when you're not looking for criticisms, something like that, because we're trying to figure out, all right, why do they feel like they're turtling? Why do they feel like if they don't have success on first and goal from the 10 or something like that, why does it look like they're just willing to take whatever they might get, like a 5-yard check down that leaves them short of the end zone, or a pass to the flat that's going to rely on the tight end, Chig, or Gunner, Helm, or whomever to do the heavy lifting there? Why do they feel like they're turtling if they don't get what they want on 1st and 10? And there's some level of caution that has to be had specifically there, because you can't come away with no points at all. You can't have the Brandon Allen 4th and 2 throw through the back of the end zone type of situation. So I get the cost-benefit analysis of some of the plays that we're seeing in those situations. But yeah, I think red zone offense is probably the place that I'd start the most.
How did the run game fare over the course of 2 joint practices, the Titans' run game?
There weren't as many as explosives as I saw on the part of the Falcons' run game. Now, Titans don't have Bijan. Is that what we're going with now, Robert? It's not Bijan.
Hold on. I'm sorry. What? Is this a Tyrod Tarod situation?
Yes, he is claiming that everyone has been saying his name wrong all along.
No.
Even though he's the one that peddled Bijan's Dijon to everyone. No, it's Bijan's Dijon.
So he got his mustard money, and then he decided he wants to be called by his proper name.
I mean, it can't be Bijan's Dijon. It has to be Dijon. Come on. Like that. How often Tyrod Tarod Taylor, this happened. And then there was another very recent example of this, of somebody telling us that, no, you've been saying it wrong this entire time.
I don't have another NFL one that comes to mind, but Garantano is the last one.
That one drove me insane. Yeah. Santiago Vescovi. It took him until his 5th year or 6th year or something at Tennessee to tell us it's Vescovi, not Vescovi.
I halfway remember in the back of my head that I only remember this because I used to say Jason and Travis's last name incorrectly, and I would call them Kels. before I heard it on a broadcast. So you just see, I'm serious. Well, it came out that is actually how you say their name.
No.
Yeah, no, and everyone else just went with it that they are Kelsey. I'm gonna cut him off too.
He's had enough of you today, Buck. So there is something out there that says that technically Kels is the correct pronunciation, but they're just rolling with Kelsey.
I'm gonna find it.
Okay.
I mean, no longer am I going to bring anything in here without proof.
By the way, also, I will say, you are very good at being convincing about certain things, like Ashton Jeans Tee, and I still don't know where I am on the color rush being done away with by the NFL because it's insensitive towards colorblind people. So you're very good at bringing these things to the table that are very plausible, but just enough, like John Spytek being the heir of the Spytek company. The new GM of the Raiders.
Okay, here
Robert,
we go. No one cares. No one cares about this, but this is from Entertainment Tonight. It was 1 year ago, and I'll just let them play it for you.
We got to get the Kelsey family secrets. All right. Is it Kelsey family secrets or is it Kels family secrets? Why in the world did you change your name out of nowhere? And now we are Kelsey.
I never changed my name out of nowhere.
A Kelsey family name revelation. Or should we say Kels?
Travis, you're the kind of guy he would talk about.
All right, we're not listening to this whole 3-minute
that's
video.
it. That's all I need to hear.
That's all you guys need to know.
Kels. They're just rolling with the punches of Kelsey.
Okay, we're not questioning you because you didn't bring facts. We question you because you lie to us on a regular basis and try to pass it off as the truth.
You should just believe me.
You are the definition of the boy who cries wolf.
So it's Kels. Okay, by the way, the Kels brothers making waves this week. I don't know if you've seen the scuttlebutt. I think it's more than scuttlebutt.
Oh, we'd made it almost all the way through the show without talking about this damn Taylor Swift podcast.
Dude, that podcast has like 9 million views. The video.
It's not even been 24 hours. It had like 2 million live. Like it shut down their stream. She's what can you say other than she's a badass? Like I mean, she's got the juice. That's just what it is. So with Taylor Swift, I saw how many different NFL teams tried to grift off that podcast because she mentioned the name Jared Goff, and I saw it all over the Lions Instagram yesterday.
Showing off her newfound ball knowledge.
They just want they are jealous. Every NFL team is jealous of the impressions that the Kels brothers got on their podcast yesterday from the Taylor Swift bump. And so they're trying to grift off the Taylor Swift bump. Also, every woman in the world that I follow on social media appeared to have been watching that podcast.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We got on this tangent because it's Bijan now and not Bijan. So what were you saying about Bijan Robinson?
Oh, that they don't have a Bijan Robinson in the Titans' backfield.
Oh, well, very few do.
Sure, that's my point. So, like, compared to the Falcons' run game, I think the Falcons' offensive line, and they're compensated. I mean, there's a fair amount of money being thrown around on the Titans' offensive line now.
Falcons have a good offensive line.
Falcons have invested heavily in the offensive line. They've invested heavily in their run game. The dividends of that were clear to me on Tuesday and Wednesday. The other part of this is that I think the Titans' run game is fine, but it's just Pollard now. So there's no Spears there to add an extra element of it. And so you're asking Julius Chestnut or Khalil Mullings to be something that they're not. As far as what they have at their disposal. Ray McLeod and Bijan Robinson are a more effective and efficient 1-2 punch than Tony Pollard having to carry the load of this thing. Again, but I think the Titans' offensive line was moving guys out of the way. I thought JC in particular and Zeitler, that's going to be a combo that Titans fans lean on heavily all year long, and I'm fascinated to see how much better they can get as a run game.
Again, it's the place where I strangely have the most confidence. It's kind of this double-edged sword where it's weird to say that you have confidence in the Titans' offensive line with what it's produced over the last few years, but it's also the thing they did best last year was run the football. I mean, I went and looked it up because I was curious where the Titans were in run block win rate. Where do you think they ranked in the NFL in run block win rate in 2024? I'm not trying to tee up something impressive. Like they weren't, I'll say this, they weren't like top 10 or anything like that. But where do you think they ranked?
I'll give them somewhere between 17 and 20.
Yeah, 21. So they ranked 21st in run block win rate as a football team at 71%. For how bottom of the barrel they were in just about every other offensive statistic, especially in the passing game, it's crazy that they were outside of the top or the bottom 10 in that type of stat. So it was their biggest strength last year, running the football. I expect that to carry over in a way this year that is better suited for this offensive line in year 2 under Bill Callahan. Obviously, pass blocking is the thing that has been so mind-numbingly dreadful over the last few years.
Yeah, and that's the other part of this that I got into on primetime last night. And by the way, we are efforting Nate Washington. He's at Tiffen University training camp right now, which is his alma mater.
The Dragons.
Are they the Dragons?
I have done Tiffin basketball games because when I was working at Trevecca as a GA, they're in the same conference.
Well, I fear that we might have had a time zone mix-up because I texted him at 11:30 this morning and said, Zoom cool. He says he's reporting from Tiffen U today. He's there at training camp. They'll have me set up in the coach's office. And I told him 12:20 Central Time, but, these things are easy to mix up. So we will get Nate as – oh, there he goes. My bad, man.
We'll catch up
with me. Can I jump on now? Yeah. So, Robert, he may or may not be in the Zoom right now. So we will see that. But my point with the Bill Callahan situation is that if you fire Brian Callahan, you also fire Bill.
Yeah.
And you don't get to keep Bill Callahan. If you fire his son, what's he going to do? Hey, Bill, stick around. We really like the direction that you got our.
Bill, you want to be the head coach?
Yeah, no. Here, let me text Nate back really quick.
This is great radio.
Read it as you type it.
Yeah.
I just.
Why don't we just push to next week with Nate Washington? I don't want to take him away from he's hanging out at his alma mater.
He's literally asking, can he jump on now? I'm responding to him. I'm trying to do the radio show while I'm texting.
We should do this every week. I think Mondays at 10 o'clock, we should just do a booking segment.
Yeah.
We're just hitting people up. Want to come on the show? Oh, they said no.
In real time. Book people. Call them, put them on the air without their knowledge, a la Julio Jones, Shannon Sharp.
Yeah, but what I'll do is just for future reference, I'll make sure that all of these people have to deal with Robert so that I'm not having to coordinate logistics in real time. But if you fire Brian, you also fire Bill. Would you not say that the Titans' offensive line situation is trending in a positive direction?
Right now, yes, I would say it is trending in a positive direction.
Okay, so let's upset the apple cart, not just for the quarterback and the quarterback's development and the play-calling language that the quarterback speaks, but also for J.C. Latham and Peter Skoronski and all these other people that you want to make sure that you get the best out of. There's Nate Washington. Look at him from Tifton University.
Tiffin, Buck.
Tiffin
man.
University. It doesn't. We'll see if Nate, can you hear us? We can see you. I don't know if you can hear us just yet. Doesn't appear that he can hear us just yet. We may let me. How do you guys want me to do this? Because I don't. Is he on the screen there with us now?
I don't know.
That's so funny.
Go Dragons.
I'm just gonna text him. Can you hear us? Because we can see him. I don't know what issue that might be causing. I'm not the technical director around here.
I see him too. Titans could use a Nate Washington in this wide receiver core.
They sure as hell could use a Nate Washington. He's trying to get his camera angle right, which I appreciate. But I'm not sure how to.
He's repping too. Got the TU.
Hell yeah, he's there. He's there in meetings. He's there making it happen in meetings. But I'm not sure how to tell him or how to inform him that he doesn't seem to be able to hear us right now. Yeah, he's saying I literally just saw him point say you can't hear us. Okay,
I'll get him on the phone.
Okay, let's get him on the phone then.
Why don't we hit a break and we'll get to Nate Washington on the other side. Let's give this another go. Getting set to wrap up the show with some polls. Buck in Buford, Georgia. Robert and I in studio. Titans Falcons tomorrow, preseason week 2. And Titans legend Nate Washington is on Zoom from Tiffen training camp, getting ready for the Dragons' upcoming season. Nate, do you have us?
Yes, I got you guys.
All right.
Thanks for being patient with me.
Yeah. We got Nate.
We got
We're
Nate.
living right.
We got Grandpa Buck. We're good to go.
Yes, sir.
It's good to see you, buddy. We appreciate you doing this, and we're excited to have you be a part of the show for football season. I know the audience is excited to be significantly smarter because we've been dumbing things down for the first 2 hours and 45 minutes of the radio show today. So
I'm excited about the opportunity, Buck, man. You know, it's always cool working with you, man. I love how you keep this thing going, man. I love your energy, so I'm excited to be a part of this opportunity, man.
Well, it's going to be a great time had by all. What are you doing at Tiffen? You're in meetings? You coaching them up out there?
Yeah, man, I'm doing the best I can. So, you know, I've gained a pretty good rapport, not only with this administration here at campus and the president and the athletic director, but the coaching staff here. You know, Coach Brett Atkins and his staff, they're pretty new to Tiffen, Ohio. They just got here last year, but they've been doing some outstanding things. You know, they reached out to me. They wanted me to be a part of this culture. They understood, you know, the significance of what I've been able to do with my career and coming from here and the mentorship that it could help with these kids. So, you know, they reached out to me and I just wanted to be a part of it.
So dog days of camp in Tiffen, Ohio, Nate. I mean, joint practices have been happening for the Titans, obviously, this week and last week. What do you remember about joint practices? Was that something you looked forward to, the work, the competitiveness of getting in some work against a different team in a non-game setting?
You know, I know a lot of guys always say it's always good to hit someone else in a different jersey, man. But, you know, I was very leery of it. You know, I hated the fights. I hated the unnecessariness because for me personally, if I was going to be out here fighting, I was going to take it too far. You know what I'm saying? I was going to follow you to the locker room. It wasn't going to stop. You know what I'm saying? If I'm going to get fighting. So I hated it. You know, I hated having to be a part of those things. But I did, you know, understand the older that I got, you know, there was some benefits to it. You know, you get some opportunities to go out against some different techniques, some different body types, some different understandings of the game, and it gives you an opportunity to sharpen your tools. So I think a lot of the older guys may find some benefits in it without the violence, but, you know, for a lot of the younger guys, this is their way to make the team. You know, they go out, they play the tough role, they show the organization that they can be with it, but, you know, the technique part still aligns with practice. So you got to show up and make sure you're still carrying out your assignments.
You're following dudes in the locker room. That's because you got to be a bad mother to come out of Tiffen, Ohio, and make it to the NFL and have the career that you did. There's no doubt about that. Nate Washington, former Titans, former Steelers wide receiver, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Going to be hanging out with us every Thursday during the football season. So for a young quarterback, Nate, I don't know if you've seen Cam Ward's comments about he believes that the Titans' current configuration of wide receivers can be a top 5 wide receiver group in the league. And it will be easy for people to see that and sneer and laugh and make jokes and things like that because we understand where the Titans are trying to dig themselves out of versus Cam Ward coming in unattached to any bad football or any bad decision-making that's come before him. The way that he is approaching this, basically carrying himself as a 10-year vet and having to basically recondition guys who have been associated with bad football and motivate or inspire them to pull themselves out of that, whatever their football trauma might have been from the last couple of seasons. What do you make of the way of the demeanor specifically of the young quarterback here?
I have to commend him. You know, I think his leadership verbally has done a tremendous feat for a lot of those guys in that locker room that are receivers and tight ends. You know, you look at this roster with the receivers, and outside of Calvin Ridley, you don't have a bunch of names that stand out to you as far as production. No matter where they come from, you know, no matter what their story is, I think there's not a big stigma behind them of being Pro Bowlers, and with that being said, you need a guy that's going to step up in the media, in talking sessions of interviews, and speak up for you, speak up for your hard work, speak up for your ability, and to have that be your guy, your quarterback, your franchise player. I think that does nothing but instill confidence in those guys. I know when I got to Tennessee, there was a big, huge question around our receiver core. I was a third receiver coming in from Pittsburgh. You had a Kenny Britt that was coming in, and a bunch of young guys, Justin Gage, and there were a bunch of questions about us, but we had to make sure that we showed up on the field and made sure that the fans and everybody else that was following the organization knew that we were there to do our job and do our job well. Well, in this situation, you have a guy that's speaking confidence and life into your game immediately. So not only does it put a little bit of relaxed mode into that room and allows them guys to go out and play freely, but it also puts a battery in their pack to go out and perform well for their quarterback that's speaking so highly of them.
Nate Washington hanging out with us, checking in from Tiffen, his alma mater. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Nate, because your third year in Tennessee, your most productive year for the Titans, it kind of got to a point where you were at the top of that depth chart. Kenny Britt goes through that knee injury right in that 2011 season. It was really you and then Jared Cook and then some other guys that just kind of had to chip in. And I know Jared Cook was a bad dude, but in terms of the wide receivers on the field, what was that like, the challenge for you week over week in terms of the attention you were getting? Because my fear, Nate, is that that's what happens with Calvin Ridley this season with the Titans. As good of a training camp as he's had, feels like these young guys are going to have to grow up a lot faster than normal with the attention Ridley's going to receive.
Well, I will allude to that same type of thought. It's obvious that Calvin is the number one option in the pass game for the Titans, right? But in retrospect, you're definitely going to need someone to step up and take some of that heat off of his back. There's only going to be so much he can do. And once these teams start to understand that he is their focal point of the pass game, he will be having doubles and different type of coverages that will try to take him away from it. When I look at this Titans team right now, as much as I could hope and wish for a receiver in that room to step up, I'm really hoping that, this is a team that relies initially on the run game. That's where their foundation is. This offensive line has been I think, put in a position with Coach Callahan to be successful this offseason and come out and do some good things through the season. I think they've learned a lot. I've watched them here in this last preseason game, and it looks like they've grown. So, in all honesty, as much as I would love for one of these receivers to step up and be that focal point for outside of Calvin Ridley, I'm hoping that Calvin Ridley is the sidestep from our running game. I'm hoping that this running game really gets going and sets the foundation for this offense to come out and do some big things.
Well, just the idea of how much that running game can support the young quarterback, Nate, and the critical nature of it. There's going to be a lot of adversity, and he may be able to pull them out of a couple of different situations that they don't deserve to be pulled out of this year, right? Just by nature of being the talent of a number one overall pick. But, I mean, you can speak to this having worked with young quarterbacks across your career, just how critical it is to be able to take that pressure off the passing game and not put him into a situation where he's dropping back 30, 40 times.
Yeah, definitely, Buck. I mean, when you look at offensive possessions, 3 downs, you're getting 4 yards a down. You're looking at first down every third down, with a run game, with a solid run game. When I look back at our Super Bowl teams from Pittsburgh, that's what we had. We had a solid receiving core that was able to make plays, but the focal point of our offense was the run game. We made our plays in the back end off of the run game. And I think when you have a young quarterback, as we did at that time with the Ben Roethlisberger, no matter how good he was, our run game allowed him the ability to grow naturally, not put too much pressure on his shoulders to go out and make plays, big plays, to give our offense a chance to win. But him just being sustainable behind that run game and doing his job allowed us to go, search for a Lombardi and close out the deal at the end of the day.
All right, where am I going for wings? I'm going to the strip club for wings tonight. Magic City tonight for some for a Lou Will special. You got a better recommendation for me, or am I going for Magic City dinner and show?
Man. I definitely might got some suggestions for you, man. I even might have some hookups for you, man. So let's take the back in and I'll get you situated, Buck.
That's my guy, Nate Washington. It's good to see you, my dude. We're looking forward to having a fun football season with you. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Make sure you stretch before you put them cleats on again, all right?
Man, funny story. I just caught a Charlie horse in meat, and I thought it was over with for me, Buck.
It comes for us all. That's Nate Washington hanging out there with us. Thank you, my dude. Much love.
All right, y'all.
Appreciate it,
That
Nate.
is, we're looking forward to having Nate a part of the show. Like I said, we're going to try and make the football dialogue around here smarter this football season. So Ben Jones, Nate Washington, Brett Kern, they're all going to be a part of the show this season.
Let's do some polls, shall we?
Didn't we have a thing that we wanted to get to?
Let's do some polls.
Okay.
That's the thing. Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Does the amount of money change your opinion on Tennessee going from Nike to Adidas? 55.6% are still voting no.
Oh, really?
That's crazy to me. Like, that's insane. Like,
that's your fan base. They are both crazy and insane.
Man. It's like sometimes it's like, number one, if you're worried about the student athlete choosing a Nike school over an Adidas school, that's what the money's for. Number two, if you're just that upset about your own viewing pleasure, we know Tennessee has creative control over the uniforms, and who cares? Like, if they get the best player, they can wear polka dots. I don't give a damn.
You can't love them for being Vols fans and hate them for being Vols fans at the exact same time.
What will be the Titans' biggest strength in 2025? Andrew says, call me crazy, but I think offensive line. I'm kind of there with Andrew. I really am. Eli says Jeffrey Simmons. That's it. Scott says interior defensive line. I mean, in all honesty, unless Cam Ward just really pops, it probably comes down to interior defensive line or offensive line taking a huge leap, right?
Yeah, and I think that the interior offensive line should also be a strength. I mean, They have invested a lot in that interior offensive line, and J.C. Latham holding it down. Like, if Dan Moore ends up being their worst offensive lineman, you won, you know?
Agreed. Do you have an issue with Cam Ward saying that the Titans have a top 5 wide receiver core? Yes or no? 81% say no.
Issue, no. God love him. Yeah, thank God somebody has a degree of confidence on this football team, because he's going to have to will them to a few more of those.
Let him flex it. He's going to keep doing it. Those are the polls, and that's the show. What is your plan for the rest of today and tomorrow? You have effectively wasted the station's time and money going down there. You're going to expense your trip to Magic City tonight?
Hell yeah. They should expect to see many, many receipts from the strip club on their desk Monday morning.
Buck's going to leave Atlanta on a list somewhere. Cover 2 with me and Blaine Bishop coming up next.